Hi, welcome back, guys. This is your friend, the Momo Fanfics, back with the amazing fanfiction. This is series of What If Deku Inherited the Power of Telekinesis? Kaken, please stop this, or I won't forgive you. A small boy with green hair stood between a group of three kids and another one who was on the ground, crying. Yeah, or what? The leader of the group, Katsuki Bakugo, laughed, slamming his fist into his other hand's palm and releasing a small explosion with it. The hell are you going to do about it, useless Deku? The boy on Katsuki's left extended his fingers to be as long as his whole body, while the one on his right grew red wings out of his back. Why, you'll see. The green-haired boy, Izuku Midoriya, shouted defiantly. When I get my quirk, you'll regret this. Oi, you still think you'll get a quirk, Deku? Katsuki yelled, eyes bulging with amusement. You're the only one in our class that hasn't gotten his quirk yet. I haven't ever heard of someone's quirk manifesting at your age, so just face it. You'll never get one, and you'll be a useless Deku for your whole life. Katsuki began lazily walking towards Izuku. No, you're wrong, Izuku screamed, tears poking at his eyes. The doctor said it should appear any day now. Katsuki broke into a run at Izuku, followed by his two partners in crime, laughing. Then stop me with that amazing quirk that you don't have. As they approached him, Izuku shut his eyes and held up his arms to brace himself. Kaken, stop, go away. Without thinking, Izuku shoved his arms out at his classmates in an instinctive reaction. He was surprised when, instead of a burning, blunt force to his face, he was only met with screams. What the hell? He heard Katsuki's voice yell. Izuku was so in shock of the unexpected turn of events that he couldn't even open his eyes for a few seconds. When he did, though, he saw his three preschool classmates floating in midair, surrounded by a soft green glow. His own hands were also surrounded by a similar glow. He couldn't see it, but his own eyes shined more brightly as well. Izuku became aware that he could feel some sensation from somewhere he hadn't felt before, deep inside. Deku, Katsuki yelled. What the hell is this? Is this? Izuku's face slowly lit up as he realized. Is this my quirk? But at that moment, the glow disappeared from his hands and the group of bullies, and Izuku's fate was sealed. Really? Katsuki teased, laughing. After taking so damn long to get your quirk, I was expecting something decent at least. You postponed this for a few seconds, but you're still not worth anything in the end, Deku. With one stride forward, Katsuki drove his fist into Izuku's stomach, releasing a small pop against him. Laughing, the other two ran up as well and began to kick at Izuku's prone body. Izuku could barely see from between his hands, and with the occasional foot to his face, but he made out the figure of the other boy running away. At that moment, Izuku smiled. He smiled because he knew that now, he had a quirk. He had a quirk, and he used it to help someone in need. Even if he had to be hurt himself, he still had a quirk that could be used to save others. He could be a hero, like he always dreamed, and save people with a smile on his face. That is why Izuku Midoriya smiled through the pain of being beaten by the other kids. Because he knew that he could be a hero. Even though the origin of quirks was unknown, the world was able to learn plenty about quirks and how they worked. In very rare cases, individuals could mutate a brand new and unique quirk. It was rare, but it could happen. More often, though, quirks were passed down hereditarily. Children normally would manifest their quirks by age 4, and they could be passed down from either parent or a combination of the two's quirks. If the quirk was a combination, it would be its own unique quirk, of course. But if the quirk was passed from only one parent, then it was usual for the child's quirk to be stronger in some way. This was the case with Izuku Midoriya's quirk. He got it from his mother, although her telekinesis was very limited. She, at most, could make one small object move towards her at a time. She couldn't push them away. She couldn't hold them in place. and she couldn't do it to anything larger than her purse. But since Izuku inherited only from her quirk, and not his father's, which was the ability to breathe fire, his telekinesis was much more advanced from the start. He could pull things toward him, like his mother, but also push them, hold them in place, raise, lower, twist, and turn them. He could hold multiple objects in midair at once, and move them independently of each other. Of course, he still had his limits. Those limits were determined by the weight of the objects, rather than something like the size. When his quirk first manifested, he was able to lift up 3 preschoolers for a few seconds. As he grew up, however, his quirk naturally strengthened, and he became used to using it. At the time of his 3rd year of attendance at Aldera Junior High, lifting up something like the kitchen table for an extended period of time wasn't too much trouble. He could even almost lift his mother's car a few inches off of the ground for a second. And that's where this story began. Aldera Junior High. Well, you're all in your 3rd year, so it's time to get serious with thinking about your futures, the teacher announced. I have the course recommendation forms right here. But, oh, who am I kidding? You're all going for the hero course, right? He was met with an enthusiastic, "Yes, sir," simultaneously from every student, who began showing off their quirks. Even Izuku, who enthusiastically raised his pencil and his notebook, which was titled Hero Analysis for the Future, along with his hand. "Ah, very good," the teacher exclaimed. "You all have such wonderful quirks. But just remember, it's against school rules to use your quirks in the classroom." Izuku was the only student who seemed to notice the reference to the rule being broken, immediately deactivating his quirk. "You all have wonderful quirks, eh?" Katsuki Bakugo, who was in Izuku's class, remarked snarkily. "You shouldn't lump us all together like that. I'm not going to stay stuck at the bottom like the rest of these rejects." That was uncalled for, Katsuki. How rude. Arrogant bastard. The whole class exploded in anger at Katsuki, while Izuku just sighed and ignored his usual cockiness. "You should all shut your damn mouths, like the extras you are," Katsuki laughed mockingly. "Oh, you're applying for UA if I remember. Isn't that right, Katsuki?" the teacher remarked, flipping through a clipboard. "Eh? The national school. They were in the top 0.2% this year. But their acceptance rate is super low." The anger towards Katsuki quickly became admiration, while Izuku suddenly became scared that his teacher would mention that he also wanted to attend UA. "Exactly. And that's why you're all extras," Katsuki announced to the whole class before jumping onto his desk. "I aced the mock test. I'm the only one from this school who has any chance at getting into UA. I'll surpass All Might, and definitely become the #1 hero. My name would be inscribed in the list of top earners." "Oh yeah," the teacher said, looking at his clipboard. "Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No, 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 no," Izuku screamed inwardly, dreading the inevitable. "Midoriya wants to attend UA too, right? Shit." Looking around, Midoriya saw many looks of shock. What surprised him was that a few of his classmates were smiling at him and giving him thumbs up. That almost made up for what Bakugo was about to do. "Hurig!" Katsuki screamed as he slammed his hand on Izuku's desk, cracking the wood with an explosion and causing Izuku to fall out of his chair. "Hey, Deku! You're the worst of these rejects. You can't even fight back with your damn stupid quirk. How could you ever stand on the same level as me?" "Wait, Kaken," Izuku sputtered, crawling back against the wall. "I'm not trying to compete with you or anything. Honest. It's been my dream to be a hero since I was little." "Following that dream still?" Katsuki said mockingly, smoke coming from his hands. "Are you taking the exam just for fun or some shit? What the hell can you do? Make shit float?" A few chuckles came from the mass of students behind Katsuki. I can at least try to be a support hero though," Izuku tried to reason. "Yeah, sure. Try getting into UA's hero program with a damn supporting quirk." Katsuki grinned and laughed uncontrollably. Yeah, this'll be a fun day, Izuku thought. Underscore after the school day, which seemed to drag on extra long, Izuku was finally almost ready to head home. Wow, that Hero Mount lady's debut from this morning is all over the news, Izuku muttered to himself. I'll have to write down everything about it when I get home. Izuku finally got up from his desk and was about to put his notebook into his backpack when Katsuki grabbed it right out of his hand. Kaken! Izuku gasped in surprise and confusion. We're not done talking, Deku, he grunted, staring Izuku down condescendingly. Katsuki, what's that? One of Katsuki's lackeys, the one who could extend his fingers, asked in reference to the notebook. Huh. Hero analysis for the future. Seriously. He laughed along with the other one of Katsuki's lackeys who just sighed. Midoriya. It's fine, isn't it? Izuku said, putting his hand out to Katsuki. Please, give it back. Katsuki slapped an explosion onto it between his hands, burning the outside and edges of the notebook. Ah! Izuku shrieked in panic. That's mean. Katsuki threw the notebook out of the window, not even looking back at it. Izuku lunged at the window, holding his hand out and catching the notebook with his telekinesis before it hit the water below. As Izuku brought the notebook back up to their classroom, Katsuki went on. Most top first-string heroes have stories about them from their school days. I want to be called the only student from this mediocre junior high school that has the stuff to make it to UA. I am a perfectionist. Katsuki gripped Izuku's shoulder tightly as the green-haired bit still looked away, heating up his hand to make smoke rise from it. So, don't apply to UA, nerd. Izuku couldn't say anything. He just stood there, shaking from what Katsuki wrongly thought was fear. Come on, you should at least say something back. Lackey Hash 1 laughed as they all walked towards the classroom door. Nah, he's too pathetic. Lackey Hash 2 laughed as well. He can't even respond to reality. Katsuki suddenly stopped at the exit and turned around. You know, there is a quick way to become a hero if you want. Just hope to have a useful fucking quirk in your next life and jump off of a building. For a split second, Izuku's restraint snapped, and he quickly turned toward Katsuki, raising his hand. Katsuki raised his own hand, setting off explosions as he grinned and slowly said, What is it, Deku? Izuku reined in his anger for the moment. He'd show Katsuki, just not yet. Not now, and not like this. Katsuki scoffed and walked off, once again mistaking Izuku's shaking for fear. Izuku examined his 13th hero notebook as he walked home. Thankfully, all of the pages were intact, so Katsuki had really accomplished nothing. Even though it turned out fine, Izuku was in a bad mood. Even though he knew that Katsuki was wrong, the fact that he hated Izuku that much still hurt, so he decided to take the long route home. Damn stupid Kaken. I'll show you how stupid you are. You'll see. Izuku wanted to chuckle a little at the thought of Katsuki finding out about how he was training his quirk. As he approached an underpass, he forced a laugh, and, in the hopes of raising his spirits, he decided to imitate the laugh of All Might, the Hash 1 hero and his personal idol. Through the echoes of his laugh reverberating in the underpass, he barely noticed the clanking of metal as the manhole cover behind him was rattled by a strange green liquid. Ah, a medium-sized vessel. A raspy, cold voice sent chills down Izuku's spine. It'll do. Izuku whipped around, raising his hands in defense instinctually. But before he could even think, he was covered and wrapped up in a green, sticky goop. Relax, kid, the voice said, prompting Izuku to look up and see two eyes floating in the fluid. I just need to borrow your body for a moment. It will only hurt for a minute before you stop feeling anything anymore. A villain? Izuku started panicking, groping at the goo that was trying to flow into his mouth. You can't grab me, I'm fluid, the villain exclaimed, laughing. Then, I guess now is the time to see if my quirk training has paid off. Izuku closed his eyes, relaxed his arms and legs, and stopped gasping for air. Oh, I really like the submissive type, the sludge villain chuckled. It's a shame I need to stop your life right here. Izuku clenched his hands, focusing on his own body. After only a moment, he got his grip and a light green glow formed around him. What's happening? The villain gasped, trying to hold Izuku in. What's with this force? Use my telekinesis to grab myself and push with everything I have. Izuku pushed his body out of the fluid with incredible force, still glowing and floating in the air for a moment after, before deactivating his quirk and landing on the concrete. Why you? The villain stuttered in disbelief. You shouldn't have been able to escape. Without saying anything, Izuku reached out and gripped the villain with his telekinesis, restricting his movement and stopping him from escaping. What are you doing? The sludge villain shrieked, struggling to touch the ground and run away. It's simple, Izuku said while catching his breath, keeping his attention on the floating ball of goop in front of him. If you were so desperate to get into a vessel, then I assume you were being chased by a hero. I just need to hold you until… Izuku was cut off when the manhole cover that the sludge villain came from was suddenly blasted up from the ground with immense force. And no, the villain shrieked, struggling even more against Izuku's quirk. This is bad, thought Izuku. I've held him up for a while, and he's struggling a lot. On top of using telekinesis on myself, I'm running out of steam. It's easier to hold him because he's liquid, but still, I just need to focus. As long as the hero isn't All Might or something, I should be. I am here. All Might's unmistakable voice shouted out as his bulky body jumped up from the sewer. Then, he noticed Izuku holding the sludge villain. Aha, I see I've inconvenienced you due to my distracted heroing, citizen. Alo misiite, Izuku shrieked, losing control of his telekinesis for a moment and allowing the villain to flee. Oh, no you don't, All Might yelled as he rushed past the villain to its front and delivered a powerful punch, Texas smash, that sent the villain splattering across the street. All Might? Izuku stammered, pointing at the pro-hero in disbelief. All Might took 2 empty 2-liter soda bottles out of a plastic bag, crouched down, and began to move around the street in blurring speeds. After about 5 seconds, the street was clean, and the bottles were filled with green fluid, which All Might promptly placed in his pockets. Ah ha 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 ha, All Might bellowed throatily, pointing a thumbs up at Izuku. I thank you for assisting me in capturing this villain. A bit of CC course, Izuku stammered, before realizing. I need your autograph, please, and bowing stiffly. Ah, of course. I'd be happy to give you my signature. As Izuku fumbled around for his notebook and a pen, All Might continued. I truly must apologize for getting you involved in that. I normally don't make rookie mistakes, but I suppose I was just overexcited as I haven't ever been around here before now. Izuku presented an empty page of his notebook and a pen to All Might, who signed it promptly. But instead of handing it back to Izuku, he hesitated. I have some time left, All Might thought. May I ask why it is that your notebook is burnt? He asked Izuku. That. Izuku glanced at the notebook before looking back up at All Might. One of my friends destroyed it by accident. What kind of accident results in fire? Well, it was a quirk accident. The quirk part wasn't an accident, but the notebook just ended up in between there. Ah, I see, All Might sighed. He looked at the front cover of the notebook, and his eyes widened in surprise. Hero analysis for the future, huh? Interesting. All Might flipped through the pages, much to Izuku's inward terror. Shit. These notes are really in-depth. These are 2. This is #13. If a villain got their hands on these notes. And on the other 12, too. Oh, All Might, I have a question, Izuku stammered. ignoring the fact that his idol was looking at his most embarrassing hobby. Ah, yes, of course, All Might replied, handing back the notebook. But please make it quick. I'm actually running short on time. Izuku liked to think that he was confident with himself, with his quirk. But even though he knew that Katsuki was full of shit, he was still affected by the constant berating more than he'd admit, and more than he knew. All right, I'll make it quick. Izuku gathered up his courage and breathed in deeply, before asking, "See, can someone like me? I mean, with my quirk, can someone become a hero with a quirk like mine? Is that what?" All Might stared at Izuku in confusion, before letting out a hearty laugh. Ah ha 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 ha. Is that what you're worried about? Of course. From what I've seen, your quirk is plenty worthy of a hero. I didn't just see you holding that villain. To be honest, I watched you for a moment from the sewer grate. Ah ha 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 ha. Really? Izuku yelped, thinking about All Might having seen his quirk completely in action. But the praise was too much, and tears of joy began running down Izuku's face. Even though Izuku already knew. To be told by one's idol that you can accomplish your biggest dream would be a life-changing experience for anyone. Yes, the way you manipulated your own body, as well as that of the villain, were each impressive on their own. However, you did both. You truly have great potential in that quirk of yours. Izuku collapsed to his knees, clutching at his chest and sobbing. Thank you, All Might. All Might placed a hand on Izuku's head, before saying, I must go now. But never give up on that dream. Achieve it. I hope to work with you as a fellow hero one day, so keep at it. I'll see you around. With a small salute, All Might launched himself into the air, leaving Izuku sobbing on the ground. That kid. He might be the one. But I don't know much about his personality. Besides, with that sobbing, he doesn't seem very courageous. Well, I'll keep an eye on Wait. Did I get his name? Izuku slowly rose and wiped his eyes dry on his sleeve. He could do it. For the first time since his quirk first manifested, he was sure that he could be a hero. He resumed walking homeward. He went slowly, not anymore because he wanted to settle down from Katsuki, but because he wanted his meeting with All Might to sink in before he went home to his mother. Izuku was just a minute or two away from his house when his attention was caught by an explosion. He looked to his right and saw a black plume of smoke just a few blocks away. Without even thinking about being late, he ran over to see what the commotion was. When he reached the shopping center, his heart almost stopped when he saw the sludge villain wreaking havoc on multiple pro-heroes. He must have escaped from All Might, Izuku thought. Where the heck even is All Might? Izuku looked around. But the only person sticking out in the crowd was an emaciated blonde man that just happened to be wearing the same white t-shirt and gray pants as All Might was that day. Hey, why aren't the heroes moving in? The person next to Izuku asked another, catching Izuku's interest. Apparently, the other person said in a worried tone, the villain took a middle schooler hostage. Izuku immediately panicked and pushed through the crowd to get to the safety barriers. He looked for anyone being held hostage, but couldn't make anything out for a few seconds, until he saw Kaken. Without a second thought, Izuku vaulted over the safety barrier and ran towards the villain holding Katsuki Bakugo. He could hardly hear the heroes yelling after him over his heartbeat pounding in his ears. What the hell am I doing? Izuku thought as he ran. My legs are moving on their own. Stop, damn it. The villain spotted Izuku running at him and laughed. Oh ho ho, are you back for more? Sorry, but I've already found a better vessel than yours, so I'll just kill you instead. Shit. I gotta think. Izuku thought frantically. I'm so damn pathetic, thought the emaciated man behind the crowd. That's it. Page 25. Izuku took his backpack from his shoulder and threw it at the villain. Distract. I'm pathetic. As the contents of Izuku's backpack flew through the air, he used his telekinesis to aim his school supplies into the villain's eyes. "Arg, I can't see, you damn kid," the villain yelled, momentarily removing the fluid from Katsuki's mouth to rub his eyes. "I'm so completely pathetic." "Kaken," Izuku yelled as he reached the villain, throwing his hands into the fluid. "I got you." "Dumbass Deku," Katsuki yelled furiously. "I can't even blast my way out. So what the fuck can you do?" Izuku didn't say anything else. He just focused on pulling Katsuki out, and a soft glow soon shined through the green fluid. "I don't need your damn help," Katsuki screamed at Izuku, before being wrenched from the villain by Izuku's quirk. "How can I deserve the title of #1 hero if this is how pathetic my resolve is?" The body of the emaciated man, standing behind the crowd, began to fill with muscle and power as smoke flew off of his body. Izuku grabbed Katsuki from midair and pulled him with both his arms and his quirk simultaneously, which lightened the load on each. And then Izuku smiled. He smiled because he knew that he had a quirk that could help others. He knew that he could be a hero. But then Izuku saw a white blur flash by. He deactivated his quirk, setting Katsuki down on his feet, and turned around. "Why the hell did?" Katsuki started yelling at Izuku, but cut himself off when he also saw. All Might was in a lunge, reeling back his arm. "Detruit! Smash!" All Might threw his fist into the villain, causing him to splatter all around the street and stores. The immense force of All Might's strength blew a huge wind pressure out in all directions, causing both of the boys, the other heroes, and the crowd to stagger back. The clouds whirled around in the sky and collected over the scene, before sending down a light rain pour. "Is this rain?" He changed the weather with his wind pressure. "Well, that's All Might for you." The crowd outside of the shopping district cheered and gawked at All Might. Izuku and Katsuki, however, just stood in shock, staring at the large man. All Might slowly turned toward the two boys and gave them a thumbs up, showing them his wide smile. Quickly, the boys were surrounded by the press and heroes. Katsuki was praised for his bravery and perseverance, and for having such a flashy quirk. Izuku received some light scolding from the heroes for being reckless, but was also praised by them and the press for rescuing Katsuki. "Could you tell us why you jumped in to save the other boy?" one lady asked, holding up a microphone to Izuku. My legs just started running on their own, and it just happened," he stuttered nervously. I see. Thanks for your time, Do you mind giving us your name?" "You don't have to." "No, it's fine. I'm Izuku Midoriya." "Well, thank you for time, Midoriya." Izuku wanted to talk to All Might, too, but he was surrounded by the news at the moment, and Izuku was already satisfied with their earlier conversation. So, he headed home. Oi, Deku, Katsuki yelled, running up behind Izuku before he could make his way home. "Yeah, Kaken?" Izuku asked, turning around. He was in too good of a mood to feel intimidated or angry at his old friend. "I'll admit that your quirk ain't completely worthless, but it still isn't shit compared to mine," Katsuki yelled, waving his fist at Izuku. "I don't owe you shit, because I didn't need your help. This changes nothing." Katsuki turned around, hands in his pockets and grumbling to himself, and walked toward his house. Izuku once again wanted to laugh at his friend's attitude, but he held it in this time. He continued his own walk home until, at an intersection, he was met with the large form of All Might. "I am here," All Might stated loudly. All Might?" Izuku shouted, falling back on his butt. What are you doing here?" "I was not satisfied with our last talk, young man. And also, I don't believe I ever got your name." It's Izuku Midoriya." "Well, young Midoriya, earlier, I told you that you can be a hero. That your quirk was worth of being one. but having a strong quirk is a poor argument for becoming a hero. What do you mean? What do I mean? When that villain had taken the boy, there were multiple professional heroes there who hesitated to take action. You, however, did not. Even though you told me that you're unsure of your ability, you didn't hesitate to jump in and save a life. You know, most pro heroes have stories about their deeds before they were heroes. What do these stories have in common, you ask? They all happened when those heroes jumped into action before they even realized what happened. It was the same here, wasn't it? Your legs moved before you even realized. Why, yes, All Might. Today, you were the most heroic person there, young Midoriya. I said earlier that you can be a hero. But I now see that you have what it takes to become one of the greatest heroes of all time. So please, allow me to foster your growth. I can help you become that hero. So, what do you say? Will you train under me? Wait, what? Izuku shrieked, perfectly aware that there was no way this was actually happening, and he was probably dreaming. That's a lot to drop on me at once. Ah ha 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 ha. There's more to drop on you, but don't worry. Not all at once. Listen, here's the thing. All Might crouched down next to Izuku, who was sobbing now. I must know now. If you accept, then we will begin Saturday. I will also impart onto you a secret of mine, though I cannot do that if you decline. This is a lot, but Of course, Izuku cried, wiping his eyes with his sleeve before smiling up at All Might. I'll train under you, All Might. Very well, All Might thundered, standing back up to his full height. Saturday morning at 5 a.m. Meet me at the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. You don't need to bring anything except for yourself. I'll go over the specifics of your training tomorrow. So that's all I have to say for now. All Might. Thank you, Izuku said, his tears replaced with a look of determination. I won't let you down. I'll see you then, All Might said, as smoke started coming off of his body. Shit. Without another word, All Might rocketed away, leaving Izuku alone in his excitement and glee. At that moment, Izuku decided that, even if this was a dream, it was the best dream he'd ever have. But of course, this was no dream. This is the story of how Izuku Midoriya became the world's greatest hero, and also how he became part of the world's greatest hero duo. Hey, Mom, Izuku called out as he arrived at their apartment. I'm home. Izuku, his mother, Inko Midoriya, cried out as she ran to him and gripped him up into a tight hug. Inko Midoriya was still almost as youthful and fit as she was 10 years before. She had been worried about Izuku before he developed his quirk. In fact, she probably would have taken to stress eating if Izuku had remained quirkless. It was moments like these, though, that made her wonder if she should be stress eating anyway. What's wrong, Mom? Izuku stammered, almost having forgotten about the villain attack because of his encounter with All Might. Why, you were late, and the TV was on, and there was a villain attack. And why you? Mom, Izuku cut her off, grabbing her shoulders to steady her. Calm down, I'm fine. They interviewed you, and I heard about everything. Oh yeah, I forgot that they asked me a question. How do you forget that? Inko shrieked. Were you hit on the head? Where is it, sweetie? I can fix it. And no, I wasn't hit on the head. Izuku couldn't help but laugh at his mom's hysteria. Actually, today turned out to be one of the best days of my life. Eh? Because you were rescued by All Might. No. But that did have to do with it, I guess. Izuku proceeded to tell his mom about the events of the day. Of course, he left out Katsuki's regular stupidity, and instead began with his first encounter with a sludge villain. He told her how he defended himself against the villain, and how All Might told him that he could be a great hero. He told her how he then saved Katsuki from the same villain, and the speech that All Might provided him just a few minutes ago. He's going to train you, Inko screeched in disbelief. All Might is going to personally train you. Yeah, isn't it great? Izuku beamed, unable to contain his happiness. That's amazing, Inko cried, hugging her son. I'm so happy for you. Tonight, I'm making the best katsudon ever. Oh, I can't wait, Izuku said, his mouth watering. Well, I'm going to do my homework right now. All right, Izuku. I'm going to put on dinner in just a bit. Inko patted his head before he got up and brought his backpack to his room. After dinner, and before going to bed, Izuku stood in front of a punching bag, which was hung from the ceiling of the third bedroom in his apartment. At least, it was supposed to be a third bedroom. It was never used since Izuku was an only child, and was just filled with boxes as time went on. About a year and a half prior to now, Izuku decided that he wanted to develop his quirk in some new ways and converted the room to a training room. There was a weight machine and some dumbbells in the room that accumulated over time, along with the punching bag that Izuku stood in front of now. All right, I need to control this now, Izuku thought to himself as he breathed in. I don't know if I'll be able to practice this once I start training under All Might. Izuku brought back his right arm and focused on it with his mind. Slowly, his arm began to glow with a soft green light. He opened his eyes, which were also glowing, to focus on the bag in front of him. Move my arm. Right there. Izuku used his telekinesis to shoot his arm into the punching bag. The force of the hit generated a loud asterisk thwack asterisk, and the bag was thrown off of the chain that held it to the ceiling. Izuku's hand barely felt it, supported by the force of his quirk. But the amount of focus it took to confine his quirk to just his arm, and then to move it was very tiring. Damn it. How can I get more force into this? Izuku began rapidly muttering to himself, thinking up and swatting down ideas out loud. He didn't even notice when his mother walked in. Izuku? Inko tapped Izuku's shoulder, breaking his muttering. You should get to bed if you want to be rested for school tomorrow, all right? Oh, okay, Mom. Sorry, I lost track of time. It's fine. Just get some sleep now. Izuku went to his bedroom and set his alarm. He fell into a peaceful sleep, feeling glad that he would be able to train with his idol, All Might. But he didn't know what kind of hell the next 10 months would be. Welcome to Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, young Midoriya. Izuku, who had shown up to the beach 15 minutes early, was surprised to hear a voice. He looked around until his eyes landed on a blond, emaciated man standing on the sand. His clothes were extremely baggy. I saw you at the incident with the sludge villain the other day, Izuku exclaimed in recognition. Oh, you saw me there? The man stuttered, obviously nervous about something. Yeah. Are you a friend of All Might's? Izuku asked, approaching the man. Well, I suppose you could say that, the man exclaimed, laughing before coughing up a small bit of blood. Ak, are you okay? Izuku shrieked as the man wiped the blood from his mouth. Of course I am, young Midoriya. My name is Toshinori Yagi, and I'll be helping you train for this week. Toshinori held his hand out to Izuku. Oh, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Yagi, Izuku said politely, shaking hands with the man. I thought that All Might would be here, though. If you can make it through this week, Toshinori said with a grin, then All Might will come, and he'll share that secret with you then, as well. All right, sir. I see, so. What will we be doing this week? Well, do you see all of this garbage? Toshinori asked, pointing behind himself at the beach, which was covered in what looked like a small dump. Yes. Well, for some reason, the tide washes up a lot of garbage in this spot of the beach park. People used that as a cover for their own illegal dumping, and it was just ignored for so long that it's ended up this badly. When heroes first appeared, they did mostly volunteer work. No matter how boring or tedious it may seem compared to fighting bad guys, we cannot forget those roots. By the end of this week, you must clear this entire section of the beach and restore the horizon. This entire section? Izuku yelled, looking at the massive mound in front of him. Welcome to hell, kid. All Might worked out a schedule for you this week. It covers training, rest, sleep, school, and homework time. It's a tough schedule. I personally think he went overboard, but here you go. He handed Izuku the schedule. I can do it, but how should I even go about cleaning all of this? Well, All Might actually gave me a note for that. He took out another piece of paper. Young Midoriya, you should begin by moving the largest objects that you can with your quirk. Keep going until you can't anymore. Then use your quirk on smaller and smaller objects until it's completely tired out. Then, use your own 2 hands to move the trash until your quirk has recovered. You may only stop at the set rest times, or if you are completely unable to move your body. You can set all of the garbage in this truck, and we'll take it all to the dump bit by bit. I can do this, Izuku exclaimed, a determined smile forming on his face. I won't let you go back on those words, Toshinori said with a wicked smile, which was oozing blood. I'll work you to the bone. Put simply, Izuku was barely able to keep with the schedule all week. His muscles and quirk were worked endlessly. He had to work harder than ever before to keep up with his homework load in that short allotted time as well. By the end of every day, he was exhausted mentally and physically, and his quirk was rendered useless until the next day. Each day, however, despite his fatigue, it seemed that he was able to clear more of the trash than the day before. Saturday, exactly 1 week after the training began, was the last day that he needed. There, Izuku sighed, letting his strained quirk drop the last of the garbage on top of the pile. I did it. Izuku turned to smile at Toshinori, who himself was gazing and smiling at the mountain of trash. Congrats, young Midoriya, the man exclaimed, raising his hand in a thumbs up. You've cleared away the trash from this entire section of the beach. It feels really nice to have that all done, Izuku gasped, panting and leaning his hands on his knees. So, Mr. Yagi, about All Might. Ah, of course, Toshinori said, chuckling. He shall be here momentarily, young man. But there's one more condition about that secret of his. How many more times is the deal going to change? Izuku asked, looking annoyed at Toshinori. Just this once more, and it really should go without saying. You will never write about this secret online, or share it with anyone without All Might's permission. Oh, that's what you meant. Of course I won't. It's a secret for a reason, right? Ahaha, of course. I didn't need to say anything, Toshinori exclaimed, slapping his hand to his face. He looked around for any people before saying, well, here goes. Wait, what are you? Izuku started to ask, but was cut off by an explosion of white smoke. All Might's familiar booming voice came from the smoke, before it began flying away from his body as he struck a dramatic pose. Am here. What? All Might? Izuku shouted, more confused than he had ever been in his life. He looked around for the emaciated man who had been there a moment before. Where did Mr. Yagi go? And where did you come from? Young Midoriya, I am here to tell you my secret. It seemed like All Might completely ignored Izuku's question. Are you ready for this great knowledge to be bestowed upon you? Why, yes, I am. But where did Mr. Yagi go? Ah, yes, my secret, in fact, concerns that man, Toshinori. He and I are, in truth, All Might exclaimed as a large cloud of steam once again enveloped him. The same person. Eh? Izuku's eyes bulged as, undeniably, it was Toshinori Yagi now emerging from the steam in his overly baggy clothes. Why you? You're not really All Might. It was never the real All Might, was it? You're an imposter. Ah, shapeshifter, Nuwu. Calm down, young man, I am All Might. Toshinori yelled before coughing up a small amount of blood. Wiping away the blood from his mouth, he continued. I'm kinda like those guys that puff out their chests to look good at the pool. And no way. Toshinori walked over and sat against the railing above the sand before lifting up his baggy shirt, which revealed a large scar covering his torso. About 5 years ago, I had a fight with a villain that ended really badly. My respiratory system was almost completely destroyed, and I lost my whole stomach. I've withered away because of the after effects of many surgeries. As of right now, I can only be All Might for about 5 hours per day. 5 years ago, Izuku repeated, tapping his fingers on his chin. Wasn't that when you fought Toxic Chainsaw? Ha! You've done your homework, fanboy. More blood dropped from Toshinori's mouth as he laughed. But that weakling could never do this to me. No, the fight that did this to me. It never went public. I made sure that nobody found out. The symbol of peace that saves people with a smile must never be daunted by evil. I smile to show people that I'm confident in my ability to save them. How could I do that if they know that I'm truly vulnerable? That's a lot to lay on me, Izuku sighed, sitting down next to Toshinori. Of course it is. I told you last week, didn't I? There's certainly a lot. The emaciated man stood up and turned around to face Izuku. Young Midoriya, heroes are constantly laying their lives on the line, taking risks to help others. That day, when you saw me in the crowd, I was out of time for hero work. But seeing you jump out inspired me. You saved me from being all talk, young Midoriya, from being a fake hero. I'm honored, Izuku exclaimed, jumping to his feet. Ahaha. I assume that you are going to apply for UA. Why, yes, of course, Izuku confirmed. It's because it's the school you went to. Well, I'll be training you from now until the entrance exam. Toshinori grabbed a packet of papers out of his pocket and handed it to Izuku. I'll be helping you train your quirk, of course, but I'm also going to push the physical limits of your body. Training my body? Why? Do you think a good quirk and conviction are all that make for a good hero? Your quirk may be very strong, but you'll need some physical ability outside of that. Toshinori grinned. Not to mention, I will one day offer you my own quirk. Izuku looked down at the packet of papers in his hands, which was a typed schedule for the next 10 months of his life. Underscore every day after school, and on the weekends except Sunday, which was a physical rest day. Izuku was pushed past his limits. He cleared the rest of the entire Dagoba Beach Park of trash within the month. And then All Might started giving him specified workout routines for his body and also his quirk. Slowly, Izuku became incredibly adept at using his telekinesis. All Might put the quirk through many workouts, each one specified for improving different traits. Some helped him use it without focusing as intensely on it, as he had to work his body while also holding up and moving other objects with his quirk. He lifted many light objects or single large ones to affect the endurance and also the strength of the telekinesis. He rhythmically and repetitively moved objects in an attempt to increase the speed at which he could move them. For his body, he was given a different muscle group to focus on for each day, tearing apart his body as he did so. He even worked out during class, with some forearm clutches under his desk, and occasionally air sits during note-taking and lectures. Underscore asterisk 3 months into the training asterisk. Izuku once again stood before the punching bag in the spare room. This was his third attempt in the last month alone. Focus. He repeated in his mind for the 10th time, before his arm glowed, and he brought it back. Move it. There. Izuku's arm hit the bag, and sent it off of the chain connecting it with the ceiling for the 3rd time this month, although with admittedly more force. I'm not ready yet, damn. Underscore asterisk 8 months into the training asterisk. Move my arm. Right. There. Ag! Izuku screamed in pain as his arm was popped out of its socket. After taking a moment to recover from the shock and pain in his arm, he looked up to see that he hadn't knocked the punching bag off of its chain. Instead, his arm had gone completely through the bag, and a pile of shredded rubber and plastic laid on the floor. I did it, Izuku exclaimed in happiness, before being reminded that he just dislodged his arm by a sharp pain. I guess it's a good thing that Mom is shopping right now, or else she would have heard that scream. I should probably fine-tune this move. I wonder if… Izuku started muttering, but stopped and almost threw up when he used telekinesis to pop his arm back into place. Then, after recovering, he grabbed a trash bag and cleaned up the punching bag's innards. *** the day before the entrance exam**. Izuku collapsed on the sand, panting heavily. That day, he'd been put through one final full-body workout by All Might and a general quirkout, All Might's designation for a quirk workout, before ending the day with a 2-mile jog. That jog ended up finishing right at the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, the place where it all started. "What a view!" All Might boomed, pulling up Izuku's head so he would see the sunset. "I wonder, who was it that restored this wonderful beach?" "Ha! I did," Izuku said through his panting. I couldn't hear ya, kid." I said, "I did," Izuku yelled, looking out at the ocean. Quite the transformation from what it used to be, wouldn't you say? Yeah. You've gone through an impressive transformation yourself, young Midoriya. All Might held up his phone, and on the screen was a picture of Izuku crying on the beach. When did you take that picture?" "This is you from 10 months ago." Izuku stared at himself in the past. He was incredibly more thin and pale, and it was obvious that he wasn't very physically capable. He looked down at his current body, which was tanner and built up entirely of toned muscle. He wasn't huge, or even big for that matter, but he was definitely muscular. "That's embarrassing," Izuku sighed bluntly, cocking his head to one side. "Ah ha 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 ha, I like you, young Midoriya," All Might boomed, with his hands on his waist. "You are ready to ace the UA entrance exam." "Thank you so much, All Might," Izuku exclaimed, smiling wide enough to rival his hero's own smile. "This is the last time I'll be personally training you. I assume you can keep up this pace, and I'll be keeping an eye on you as a hero. Now, go home and get some rest. You'll need it for tomorrow's entrance exam." "Yeah, you have no idea what all of this means to me, All Might." All Might. The voices of 6 people running up the beach caused Izuku and All Might to turn their heads, and they both paled at the approaching group. "Run, young Midoriya, run." All Might and Izuku each ran off of the beach, all the way to the Midoriya residence, before All Might deflated to his true form. "I'll be seeing you another time, young Midoriya," All Might said, smiling down at the boy. "You better get into UA, you hear me?" All Might put up his fist. "I will, All Might. Thanks again for everything." Izuku met All Might's fist with his own. "This kid. He has a true drive to be a hero. One day, I know he will be the one that I give one for all. I should probably wait until he's mastered his own quirk a little bit more, though." With a final wave, All Might walked off and Izuku entered his apartment. "Hey Mom, I'm home," Izuku shouted. "Hey honey." Inko ran out of the kitchen to embrace her son. "I'm so proud of all the work you've been putting in, so I'm making some katsudon tonight as a reward." "Thanks, Mom. I'll be ready to eat right after I shower." "Okay, it should be ready by then." "Great." Izuku grabbed a towel and a set of fresh lounge wear from his room. Before walking into the bathroom, however, he stopped by the spare room once more. "I might as well try one more time," he thought, stretching his arm out. Ever since the first time he dislocated his arm 2 months prior, he had been trying to feel out exactly where the balance lied between power and control. He hadn't yet successfully broken through the bag without dislodging his arm. If he was going to do it before the exam, he wouldn't have a chance after this. Maybe I'm just overthinking this. So, he reeled back his arm, quickly bringing a green glow around it. This time, though, the glow extended a little past Izuku's shoulder. He used his telekinesis to launch his arm forward, turning his whole body with his arm. He felt his hand enter the front and exit the back of bag, and the lower half of it quickly fell to the floor. Stretching his arm, Izuku could feel that he probably overstretched it, but it was still all connected. He couldn't help but smirk as he left the room to take his shower. ***, the morning of the exam**. Outside the massive structure of UA, Izuku Midoriya paused and looked up, marveling at the grand scale of the high school. "Oi, Deku!" A familiar, angry voice shouted behind Izuku. "Get out of my way." Kaken? Izuku turned to look at his old friend walking behind him. "Don't stand in front of me, or I'll fucking kill you," Katsuki said in a low voice as he passed Izuku. "Morning. Let's both do our best," Izuku muttered, but was only met with silence as Katsuki walked on. "Hey, isn't that Katsuki Bakugo? The one with the sludge villain?" Izuku heard one guy say. "Oh, yeah, he's the real thing. Oh, look behind him. It's that Midoriya guy that rescued him. Kaken hasn't tried to bully me since that day, has he? Who knows? Maybe he's turning his life around." Izuku shook his head and looked up at Yua again. "I've been preparing for this moment for the past 10 months. Now, it's time to take my first step to being a hero." Izuku took 2 steps before he tripped and began falling down toward the ground. "Yep, this is how my life ends. It's over for me." Suddenly, he stopped falling and was floating in midair. What happened? Did my quirk activate on its own? How? Wait, no. This is different. It feels like I'm completely weightless. He slowly looked up to see an extremely cute brunette girl smiling down at him. "Are you all right?" she asked, using her hands to right him in the air. "Why, yeah," Izuku said, looking at the girl, confused. "Is that your quirk?" "Yeah, I'm sorry for using it without asking," the girl said, touching the tips of her fingers together as gravity found its way back to Izuku. "But it'd be bad luck if you fell, right?" "Yeah, thanks for that. What is your quirk, if you don't mind me asking?" "It's zero gravity. I can negate gravity's effect on anything I touch," the girl explained as they both started walking towards the building. "That is so cool," Izuku exclaimed excitedly as his mind instinctively wandered over the many possible applications of her quirk. "Why, you're muttering really fast," she said, looking at him wide-eyed. "Huh? Oh, sorry," Izuku said apologetically. "I didn't mean to. How heavy is your limit?" "Oh, I'm not sure, really. I think it's around 3 tons. What's your quirk?" "Huh? Oh, mine is telekinesis." "Eh?" The girl stopped and tilted her head. "Do you need to touch something to activate it? And what's your limit?" "Ah, no. I can pick up anything within about 15 meters. I mean, I can hold things outside of that range, but it needs to be that close for me to activate it. And my limit is probably a little bit more than a car weighs." The pair resumed their walk. "Your quirk is way cooler than mine," the girl exclaimed. "Our limits are pretty close to the same, but you don't have to touch the things to activate it, and you can move them around. Well, at my upper ranges I can barely move things, but I'm guessing zero gravity affects everything the same, right?" "Well, I guess you're right. It's probably pretty hard for you to move a car, but I could just push it really hard and it won't stop." Wait a minute," Izuku said as he realized something. "If you make something like a car weightless, then I might be able to pick it up like nothing." "Oh, really? That would be really cool," the girl exclaimed, her eyes shining. "We could probably come up with a lot of combination moves, now that I think about it. Our quirks might be perfect complements, huh?" he pondered. "Hey, I'm Ochako Yororaka," the girl said, smiling as she put her hand out to shake Izuku's. I'm Izuku Midoriya," he said, blushing a little bit at her kind gesture. He noticed 2 things. Her fingers had little soft pads on their tips, and her pinky finger wasn't touching him. "Are those pads for activating your quirk?" Oh, yeah. It activates when I touch all 5 of my finger pads on one hand to something. I see, Izuku said as they reached the room labeled UA High School Hero Course Exam Orientation. I guess we should head to our own school's sections. Yeah, I'll see you later, Midoriya. Ochako smiled brightly and ran toward where her section was. Left alone, Izuku suddenly realized that he and Katsuki were the only ones from Aldera who applied for UA, so he'd be sitting right next to him. So, he went looking and eventually found his seat. As Izuku sat next to Katsuki, the blonde just scoffed. At least he wasn't threatening Izuku with death. A large US symbol appeared on a screen at the front of the auditorium, and lights shined on the stage, where the pro hero, Present Mike, stood. For all you Examine listeners, welcome to my show today. Everyone here, say hey. Present Mike shouted enthusiastically, only to be met with silence by the crowd. Izuku would have spoken up if he hadn't been so excited to see Present Mike in the first place. Present Mike shrugged. What a refined response. Then, I'll quickly present to you the rundown of the practical exam. Are you ready? Asterisk, more silence asterisk. Present Mike, the voice hero. Izuku excitedly whispered as quietly as he could. I listen to him on the radio every week. I'm so moved. I guess all the UA teachers are heroes, huh? Shut the fuck up, Katsuki hissed. But Izuku paid him no mind. As it says in the application requirements, Present Mike continued, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles. You can bring whatever you want with you. After the presentation, head to the battle center that was assigned to you, okay? In other words, Katsuki whispered harshly, they won't let people work with friends from their own school, huh? You're right, Izuku said, looking at their exam tickets. Even though our examinee numbers are consecutive, we're going to different battle centers. Don't look at my ticket, I'll kill you, Katsuki hissed. Damn it, now I can't crush you. Izuku held back a chuckle. Yup, he's still the same. There are 3 types of foe villains in each battle center that you can destroy for villain points, Present Mike called out. There are 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers. Your goal is to accumulate points by immobilizing these foe villains. Excuse me, may I ask a question? A tall boy with short black hair and glasses yelled, raising his hand. Okay, Present Mike said as a spotlight shined on the boy. The printout says there are 4 types of villains. If that is a misprint, as it seems to be, then UA, which is the most prominent hero school in Japan, should be ashamed of that foolish mistake. We examinees are here in this place because we wish to be molded into exemplary heroes. In addition, the boy said, turning toward Izuku, you, with the curly hair, you've been muttering this entire time. It's distracting. If you're here on a pleasure trip, then you should leave immediately. Izuku hadn't even realized he was muttering. He quickly said, I'm sorry, and a few giggles came from the crowd. Okay, examinee number 7111. Present Mike shouted, bringing everyone's attention back to him. Thanks for the message. The 4th villain is worth no villain points. He's an obstacle, so to speak. There's one in every center that'll go crazy in small areas. It isn't invincible, but there's no reason to fight it either. I recommend avoiding it. Thank you very much. Examinee number 7111 shouted with a bow. Please excuse my interruption. All right, that's all from me today, Present Mike said. Finally, I'll leave you listeners with a gift. It's our school motto. The hero Napoleon Bonaparte once said, a true hero is someone who overcomes life's misfortunes. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Now, good luck suffering, everyone. Izuku stood outside of Battle Center B, going through the warm-up stretches that he'd learned through his training with All Might. This is it, he thought, standing back up straight after finishing his stretches. All Might said that I have what it takes to be a hero, a great hero. Now it's time to prove him right. What's this? It looks as big as a real city. one applicant said. "UA has multiple of these on campus." "Amazing," another one exclaimed. "A 10-minute mock battle, huh?" Izuku thought, looking around. Everybody looks pretty confident. Looking around, there were only a few applicants that physically stood out to Izuku. One was a tall guy with 6 webbed arms. Another was a guy wearing a helmet. And there was also a feminine blonde guy with a fancy frilly shirt and metal belt. Then there was someone with red and white hair gelled into a single spike. And then he saw a Chaco Uraraka in the middle of the crowd, fanning herself with her hand. "I should probably thank her again for earlier," Izuku thought as he began walking towards her. "And also wish her luck." Before he even took 2 steps, a hand grabbed Izuku's shoulder firmly. He slowly turned to look up at the tall boy with short dark hair and glasses. Examinee-7111, if he remembered correctly, who had called him out during the orientation for muttering. "So he's here, too?" Izuku thought, narrowing his eyes at the boy. "He's already getting on my nerves." Examinee-7111 glanced up towards Uraraka, saying, "That girl appears to be trying to focus." He looked back at Izuku, tilting his head and slightly narrowing his eyes. "What exactly are you here for? Are you here to interfere with those of us who are actually interested in being heroes?" "What's that supposed to mean?" Izuku responded coldly. "I'm here to be a hero too." "It didn't occur to you that I might just know her?" "It did. But the students here are all from different schools. I find it unlikely that you'd know her." "Well, Okay, start." Present Mike's voice rang out over the group. As everyone looked up at the tower that he was yelling from, he continued. "What's wrong? There are no countdowns in a real fight. Run, run." "Damn. I can't let this asshole distract me," Izuku thought, starting to run into the fake city along with the other applicants. "I have to pass and not let All Might down." Students began splitting off of the main group as they ran, and Izuku followed suit by running alone into an abandoned side street. Suddenly, a large metal robot labeled 2 jumped out in front of him. Expecting it to weigh a lot, Izuku used his telekinesis to launch it into a cement wall that was next to the building it jumped from. To Izuku's surprise, the robot was lighter than he expected, so the extra force he had put in caused the machine to crush against the wall. Whoa, they must be made of a super light, yet durable material. "Leave it to Yua," he thought before continuing down the street. Along the road, he encountered 2 one-pointers, 1 more 2-pointer, and a 3-pointer. Once he reached the end of the street, he looked back for a second at the robots that he had smashed against walls and the floor. All right, 9 points. He peeled off down another side street, where he was ambushed by a group of 5 robots. A 3-pointer, a 2-pointer, and 3 one-pointers. They all trained their sights on him, but he gripped them all simultaneously with his quirk, and, somersaulting out of the way, he made them all collide with each other. 17 points. Before reaching the end of the street, he encountered another 3-pointer, bringing his total up to 20 villain points. 6.5 minutes left, Present Mike's voice screamed out. "It's been 3.5 minutes," Izuku thought, starting to run up another street. "At this rate, I'll get about 50 or so points. That's probably enough. I need to keep this up." Izuku ran through another street. As he went, his motion activated several faux villains. There were 2 3-pointers, 3 2-pointers, and 2 one-pointers, which he all gripped with his power and launched into a wall at the end of the street, skidding to a halt himself. That was 14 more points, all in an instant. That's 34 in total. That was just a lucky street though, so I can't let up yet. Izuku ran down another street, although he only collected 6 points in that one. He did this going down 2 more streets, amassing 11 points from them, before breaking out onto a main street that was full of applicants and destroyed faux villains. After doing it through those 4 streets, he felt a sharp pain in his side. 45, 47, 48. He heard and saw examine-7111 as he leapt from villain to villain, destroying them with great speed and powerful kicks. He then saw Ochako Uraraka with several robots floating behind her, before she released them to fall to the ground, yelling, 28. 48? 28? Am I really doing that well? I already have 51 points. Izuku clutched at his aching side and started catching his breath. Then again, I'm really tired out from overexerting my quirk. There were a lot of robots, plus I was running the whole time. Suddenly, a massive boom shook the entire city, and a shockwave was sent down the street. Izuku looked at the source and paled when he saw a massive robot, which was taller than any of the buildings surrounding it. It had a gray zero plastered on its shoulder. The 0-pointer? Isn't that a little bit too big? 2 minutes left, President Mike yelled over the exam site. The entirety of aspiring heroes began running away from the faux villain. Izuku was about to follow them when, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the color brown. He looked to see that Ochako Uraraka had her leg pinned beneath some rubble. She was twisting, trying to connect her fingers to the concrete, but the awkward angle with which it fell on her made doing so difficult. The 0-pointer was moving down the street, with her directly in the path of its tread. She wasn't going to escape with enough time to run away. She was going to die. Ooh, she screeched, desperately fighting the weight of the rubble. Izuku's body, despite its tiredness, glowed with a soft green as he pushed himself towards the girl. As soon as he was within 15 meters, the collapsed piece of the building that had pinned Ochako's leg down flew off of her. Izuku knelt down and picked up the girl, pulling her arm over his shoulder before running away. As he did, though, he could feel that his quirk had lost most of its strength. Midoriya, Ochako said softly, before heaving from nausea. Thanks. Don't mention it, Izuku yelled. Can you run on your own? I think I broke my ankle. Sorry. Izuku glanced over his shoulder. Shit. I'm not fast enough to outrun that thing while holding her, and my quirk can't handle any more, let alone using it on myself. If it comes to it, I guess I could use the last of my strength to launch her a safe distance. But then I'd be done. If only I could stop it. Maybe. No, that wouldn't work. I need to use my quirk to do that. If only I weighed less. Wait a minute. Uraraka, can you still use your quirk? I could probably manage it for a few seconds, she groaned. But using it on myself right now wouldn't work too well. That's fine. That wasn't what I had in mind. Use it on me, right now. All right. Maybe it was a stupid idea. Maybe it would have been smarter for Izuku to run away with Ochako while he was weightless. But that wasn't where his mind was at the moment. Maybe it was stupid, but he realized it after the fact. He was cornered, and his fight or flight response had chosen to fight. As soon as Ochako pressed her fingers to Izuku, and he could feel gravity leaving him, he used his quirk to throw her about 15 meters ahead. Sorry about that, Uraraka. Izuku turned toward the massive faux villain that threatened to crush him momentarily. Without the burden of gravity pulling his body down, despite his weariness, he easily covered himself in a bright green glow. Leading with his right fist, he flew directly up and into the massive 0-pointer. He moved so fast that he generated a shockwave as he leapt up. He entered through the lower torso of the robot and exited through the back of its head. His body was mostly well protected by the force of his telekinesis, but the impact broke his fingers, dislocated his wrist, and broke his forearm. The bits of debris from the machine also ended up cutting him all over. He looked back down at the robot he had just ripped through, which was now falling backwards, exploding in multiple places. It hit the ground with a deafening thud, which let off a shockwave that sent Izuku back a little bit. He then realized that he was still weightless, and he used his quirk to float back down to earth. Release. Ochako gasped once Izuku touched down, touching her fingers together before vomiting a good amount. Hey, Uraraka, are you all right? Izuku called. making his way over to her as fast as his exhausted body would let him and wincing at the pain in his side. I'm fine. Ochako started talking before resuming her throwing up. Hey, take it easy, Izuku sighed as he knelt down next to her, putting his hand on her shoulder. Once she seemed done with the vomiting, Izuku asked, "How's your ankle?" "It hurts." "A lot," she sighed, rolling to sit on her butt. "But how did you do that?" "That was amazing." Izuku looked at her as she trailed off, and saw that she was looking no, staring at him and blushing. He looked down at his tracksuit and realized that the upper portion had been mostly torn apart when he went through the massive robot, and his toned body was completely visible. "Why, you're really fit, huh?" she noted before chuckling nervously. "Couldn't tell while you were wearing that tracksuit, Well, I guess." Izuku blushed a bit and looked away. "Well, anyway, it's good to know what I'm capable of with my quirk. If I use it on something that's weightless," he said, sitting next to her and laughing nervously as he went to scratch the back of his neck. "Ouch, I think I broke my arm, though." "Well, of course you did," Ochako yelled, gently grabbing his arm to look at his hand. "You punched through that whole thing. I'm surprised that you didn't shatter your whole arm up to your shoulder. That was probably a stupid idea. I probably should have just escaped with you once you made me weightless. But at least we confirmed that our quirks work well together, right?" "Yeah. Oh hey. Maybe we should become a hero duo once we graduate from UA. I mean, if we both passed the exam." Ochako laughed uncomfortably. "She's really cute when she laughs." Izuku thought, laughing nervously alongside her. "And her accent is a little cute, too. I wonder where she's from." "Time's up. It's over," Present Mike yelled over the exam site. "Ah, man," Ochako sighed as she stretched her arms above her head. "I got 28 points. I hope it's enough." "I'm sure you'll pass, so don't worry about it," Izuku said, chuckling. "I just have a feeling." "How many points did you get, Midoriya? Before you saved me." "Thanks for that, by the way." Ochako quickly jumped up and bowed to Izuku in thanks, but instantly fell back down due to her injury. "Hey, don't overexert yourself. Besides, don't mention it. It's repaying you for stopping my fall earlier." "The two don't even begin to compare," she sighed, rubbing her ankle. "I'll make it up to you one day, I promise. Anyway, how many points do you have?" "I got a..." Izuku looked around and noticed that everyone was looking at him and Ochako. "Why is everyone staring at us?" "Who wouldn't stare when you just tore through the entire zero-pointer?" Ochako sighed. "Stop dodging the question, though. Is it low or something?" "And no, I got 51, Izuku said. "Whoa, that's way better than my score," Ochako exclaimed, smiling at Izuku. "You're definitely getting in." "You did pretty well too," Izuku said earnestly. "I'm sure you'll get in too." He looked around and saw, through the crowd, that there was a short old lady walking around handing out candies. "That mademoiselle is the backbone of UA," Izuku could hear the feminine blonde boy say. He had a French accent. "She's the school's registered nurse. The youthful heroine, Recovery Girl." Recovery Girl walked over to Izuku and Ochako after checking up on everyone else. "Do you two have any injuries?" she asked, glancing at the puddle of vomit for a moment. "Yeah, she broke her ankle," Izuku said, pointing his thumb at Ochako. "And I broke my arm. And my hand." "Geez, you kids are too reckless these days," Recovery Girl sighed before quickly planting a kiss on each of their cheeks. "Eh? Why did Ochako cut herself off as the pain in her stomach and ankle disappeared?" "Whoa, is this your quirk?" Izuku asked, squeezing his newly healed hand to test it. "That's amazing." "Here, have some Haribo candies," Recovery Girl said, holding out her hand to the two teenagers. She dropped 4 gummy bears into each of their hands and turned around to walk away. "I feel all better," Ochako sighed in relief as she stood up. but I'm still not sure if I passed. I mean, if you got 51 and I got 28, then there's probably a lot of other people between our scores, right? I don't know about that, Izuku said as he also stood up. I think you did just fine. I hope so, Ochako sighed. Suddenly, she perked up. How about you give me your phone number? That way, I can tell you once I get the letter from Yua. Oh, alright. That's probably a good idea. Let's exchange numbers after we change back into our uniforms. Ochako quickly glanced back down at Izuku's body once more before looking away. Alright. Izuku and Ochako followed the rest of the group back to the locker rooms, engaging in general chatter along the way. Once they changed out of their exercise clothing and into their respective uniforms, they met again in front of the Yua front gate and exchanged numbers. Well, I'll see you later, Midoriya. It was nice to meet ya. Ochako shook Izuku's hand and smiled. Yeah, it was nice to meet you too. I'll text you later. All right, Uraraka. Izuku smiled as he let her hand go. Sounds good. See ya. Ochako and Izuku walked their separate ways. But instead of going home, Izuku walked back to UA. He needed to have a word with Present Mike. After asking a few people about the whereabouts of the vocal hero, he was eventually able to find him. He quickly walked into the room, which overlooked the exam grounds. Excuse me? Izuku called as he entered the room. Present Mike? Oh, what can I do for you, little listener? Present Mike turned to him after setting down a stack of papers. Well, there's this girl, Ochako Uraraka. She has short brown hair, rosy cheeks. Her face is kinda cute and round. You know the one I mean? She wasn't confident that she has enough points to pass, but in the end, she had to use the last of her quirk strength on me, and she was super nice besides that. She even saved me from falling before the exam, so could I give her some of my points? At least the few she could have gotten with one more use of her quirk. I think that she really deserves to be a hero, and I want to help her, at least if she isn't already passing. Then I'd like to donate as many points as she needs to pass. Ahaha. Present Mike's laugh was booming, even without his speaker turned on. Whoa, slow down there, listener. I'm sorry, but I can't transfer points between exam takers. That being said, Present Mike shook his head and put a hand on Izuku's shoulder. I don't think you should have anything to worry about. I haven't seen the scores yet, but I'll let you know that villain points aren't the only thing being considered here. If she helped you out at the end, when she wasn't confident in her own score, I'm sure that'll be taken into account. Don't tell her that I said that though. In fact, don't tell anyone. I really shouldn't have told you anyway, so keep your mouth shut about it. I will. Thank you so much. Present Mike? Izuku exclaimed in appreciation as he bowed. As Izuku exited the room, Present Mike sighed. I didn't even do anything, kid. As soon as Izuku got home, he took a long, hot shower. It helped relax his sore body and relieved the stress that his mind had been under as well. It felt like he wouldn't be able to use his quirk for weeks, although that obviously wasn't really the case. After cleaning himself up, he sat down to dinner with his mom and told her all about the entrance exam, including Ochako. Oh, well, I'm so proud of you, Inko gushed, holding Izuku's hand across the table. And that Uraraka girl sounds nice, too. She is, Izuku responded with a smile before frowning. I hope she doesn't worry too much about her score, though. I just know that she'll pass. Oh, don't worry about that, sweetie. I'm sure everything will work out, Inko smiled. Yeah, thanks for the food, Mom. It was delicious, Izuku said as he stood up and brought his dishes to the sink. I'm going to go for a run first thing tomorrow. Even though All Might isn't training me anymore, I need to keep up with my exercise. So, I might be gone when you wake up. Oh, that's fine, dear. Just don't overwork yourself, because that can be bad for you. I know, Mom. I already learned that lesson while training with All Might. I'm going to my room, so I'll see you later. Okay, she smiled. brimming with pride for her son. After cleaning the last of his dishes, Izuku made his way towards his bedroom, where he began sifting through the day's hero news. There hadn't been any debuts that day or too many villain attacks, except for one that caught his eye. Another victim of the hero killer, huh? Izuku muttered to himself. Let's see. Power Volt this time. That's too bad, I liked him. When will some hero finally stop this guy? I wonder how skilled he must be to be able to take down so many heroes. What are the specifics of his quirk, too? I've seen a lot of talk online. Izuku began rapidly muttering to himself, speculating about the hero killer called Stain. It was a full 10 minutes before he realized that he had gotten carried away again. Having gone through the hero news, Izuku decided to do some bicep curls while watching some videos on his computer. Sitting there, his mind drifted, and he came to rest his thoughts on Ochako more than once. I wonder if she's doing all right, he thought, coming to the end of his set of curls. Maybe I should text her to see how she's doing. She was pretty worried, after all. Izuku pulled out his phone and opened up his contacts, quickly finding the most recently added one. Midoriya. Hey, Uraraka. This is Midoriya from the entrance exam. I just wanted to see how you are doing after all that. Midoriya laid back on his bed, and it was only a few moments before the word read popped up under his message, and she started typing. Uraraka. Hi Midoriya. I'm doing well, and I'm feeling a lot better after relaxing a bit. Thanks for being concerned. Asterisk stream of cute emojis asterisk, how are you doing? I feel like I should be more concerned about you. Since you punched through that huge 0-pointer asterisk, more emojis asterisk. Midoriya. I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. Midoriya. I meant to ask earlier, but you're from out of town, aren't you? Uraraka. Yeah, I'm from the My Prefecture. My parents sent me out here to go to UA. Are you from near UA? Midoriya. Yeah, I lived here for my whole life. Do you know anyone around here? Uraraka. No, I only know you. I just came into Shizuoka a few days ago. Midoriya. Well, I could show you around the town if you'd like. Besides, we should get to know each other if we're going to go to school together. Uraraka. If I go to UA asterisk pouting face emoji asterisk. But I'll take you up on your offer either way. Is tomorrow morning fine? Midoriya. Sure. I'm free after about 8, since I run in the mornings. Uraraka. That's a lot of dedication. I don't think I'd have it in me asterisk plethora of emojis asterisk. Midoriya. Where should we meet? Uraraka. You could pick me up at 9:30 from my apartment. Is that fine? Midoriya. Yeah, sounds great. Where is that? Uraraka. One address attached. Midoriya. All right. I'll meet you tomorrow at 9:30. Uraraka. Great. I look forward to seeing you. Good night. Asterisk if emojis had mass. This would be a ton of them asterisk. Midoriya. Good night, Uraraka. See you tomorrow. Izuku set down his phone and stretched. He was pretty happy with how that conversation went, and he genuinely looked forward to hanging out with Uraraka. He was on good terms with most of his classmates, but most of them avoided him for fear of Katsuki's wrath, which was too often directed at Izuku for their liking. So, it would be nice for him to actually spend time with a friend. Izuku eventually decided that it was time to go to bed. But first he got up and made his way to the living room, where his mother was watching TV. I'm gonna go to bed, Mom, he said. I'm actually going to meet with Uraraka tomorrow. She's the girl from the exam. It turns out she's from out of town, so I'm going to show her around a bit. Oh my, Inko said, putting her hand on her cheek. How gentlemanlike of you, Izuku. Well, I guess I'm, going to bed now. All right, sleep well, dear, Inko called, winking at him as he walked away. Izuku had some trouble falling asleep that night. Aside from the excitement of the day, he was also nervous about meeting Ochako the next day. Why would he be, though? He was doing something nice for her, right? Besides, they were friends. New friends, but still friends. Sure, she was cute and super nice, and had an infectious laugh that he probably easily blushed to, but he shook the thoughts from his head. There was no reason to be nervous. He should be glad to have someone who wanted to hang out with him. Not nervous. He didn't hold it against his classmates because of Katsuki, and he'd be more than happy to be friends with Ochako. Even so, he kept himself up due to the odd nervousness he felt. Not so late that he was dead tired the following day, but late nonetheless. Izuku found himself outside of Ochako's apartment just before 9:30 the next morning. He had eaten, ran, and bathed earlier, and was now wearing a simple green t-shirt and jeans as he walked to her door. He still felt a bit nervous, despite numerous attempts to calm himself down, and he hesitated to knock on the door. They really hadn't covered the details of this excursion. What did she think of it? How long should they stay out? Where would they go? And would they eat lunch? There was so much that was unplanned. And he would still probably be nervous, even if he didn't have a small, maybe moderate to large crush on Ochako. But he knew that they wouldn't be able to plan any more if he didn't knock on the door and talk to her. So he finally raised his hand and knocked. He was going to knock 3 times, as was standard. But the door quickly opened in the middle of the second knock. "Hey, Midoriya," Ochako exclaimed in her bubbly voice. "I'm all ready." She was wearing a pink blouse with a gray knee-long skirt and dark leggings. Izuku stood there for a moment, a little surprised by her prompt door answer, and still holding his hand up in the knocking position. After processing what had just happened, he quickly waved his hand and smiled. "Ah, gee, good morning, Yororaka," he stuttered. "Why, you answered the door pretty quickly." She sighed, closing and locking the door behind her. "I didn't have anything else to look forward to today, so I got ready a little early." "Well, we should probably get going." "Yeah, where are we going, anyways?" "Well, there's a nice park near here. We could also go to the shopping center near here, or I could show you my favorite places to get food." Izuku stopped himself there, because he didn't want to start muttering too much in front of Ochako again. "Let's save that one for lunch," Ochako giggled. "I kinda want to go to the shopping center. I haven't needed to go there yet, but I want to see what stores are there." "That sounds good to me." As they started walking, Izuku asked, "Why do you have an apartment here already? Shouldn't you wait until you know that you'll get into UA?" "Well, my parents own a construction company," Ochako explained. "They helped build these apartments, and the guy who runs the place said that it's the least they could do to let me stay here for a month free of charge. I'm here early to get familiar with the area." "Well, what about school? Don't you still have to go?" "No, she shook her head. "The school schedule is a little ahead in my, so I guess I have an extra long break." "That's lucky," Izuku sighed. "I still have my finals in a couple weeks." "Well, you can do it." Ochako pumped her fist enthusiastically. "Yeah, thanks," he said, nodding his head. "You said your parents own a construction company. Isn't your quirk perfect for that kind of work?" "Yeah, right," Ochako agreed, before her smile faded. "I told them I wanted to help and work for them, but they wanted me to follow my own dreams." "Why do you sound so down about that?" Izuku tilted his head, concerned. Ochako looked at Izuku for a moment. She hadn't been planning on telling anyone about her family's situation until she really got to know them. But this boy saved her life, so why should she go out of her way to hide anything from him? "Well, my family's company doesn't get a lot of business. We're poor, like real poor. But they wouldn't take my help, even though I wanted to give it to them." She smiled at Izuku. "That's why I want to be a hero, though. I'm gonna get real popular and earn enough money to fully support them." "Whoa, that's a nice motivation to be a hero," he mused. "Your parents sound like great people." "They are," Ochako smiled. "What about your parents? What are they like?" "Well, my mom's always been really supportive, Izuku said. I got my quirk from her, not my dad. And she was so happy and proud and all that. Ever since, she's always been cheering me on towards my dream of being a hero. He smiled fondly, reminiscing about how she cried happily when he first told her about his quirk, despite the bruises covering him. Honestly, she's kinda too supportive. She seems nice, Ochako chuckled. What about your dad? Oh, I don't know him too well, Izuku sighed. He works abroad. He sends money home to support me and mom, but I only see him during holidays, and even then only occasionally. Oh, sorry I asked, Ochako apologized, worried that she'd upset him. Izuku chuckled. It's fine, really. He's always nice when he does visit, and mom always seems happy to see him. Besides, he's working for our sake. How could I be upset with him for that? I guess that's true, she said. So, what's it like to live in the city, so close to you, eh? You must see a lot of cool heroes around. Yeah, I've seen some, he said thoughtfully, looking down at the sidewalk. We get big villain attacks around here once or twice a month sometimes. Have you ever met 13, the space hero? Ochako's eyes brightened as she asked. He's my favorite hero. No, I actually haven't, Izuku said, placing his hand on his chin. But I've met Death Arms, Backdraft, All Might, Kamui Woods. You met All Might? Ochako cut him off. That must have been exciting. That isn't even the half of it, Izuku chuckled. He even personally trained me for UA's entrance exam. Eh? Ochako stopped walking and looked at Izuku, dumbfounded. You were trained by All Might? Like the All Might? Suddenly, Izuku regretted saying that. He hadn't needed to worry too much about leaking All Might's physical condition due to his lack of a major social life. But now he needed to be careful. Hell, he didn't even know if he was allowed to talk about the training itself. However, he hesitantly nodded his head. Why, yeah, All Might. No wonder you're so strong, Ochako exclaimed, gripping her hair. It suddenly made sense to her. His amazing control over his quirk, the way he jumped to save her when no one else did, his toned muscles and his fit body all made sense. What's he like? Is he really as big as he looks on TV? I thought he looked a little taller in person, Izuku said. Yeah, taller. Wow, Ochako sighed. Meeting him is one thing, but you trained with him, too. That's so lucky. Yeah, probably. Come on, we're almost at the shopping center. Huh? Oh yeah, I almost forgot. They started walking again. Before Ochako continued. All Might must have been pretty impressed with you to train you like that. How did you meet him? Well, it was about a year ago, I think 10 months. It was his first day in the area, and there was a villain attack. I helped out, and he talked to me afterwards. And he's been training you ever since. Geez, no wonder you're so amazing. Well, I don't think I'm that cool. Izuku scratched the back of his neck and looked away. Of course you are. You got over 50 points in that exam, and then still had enough power to rip all the way through that huge robot. Izuku looked back at Ochako, who had been wildly gesticulating while praising him, and smiled. Well, I wouldn't have been able to manage even close to that if you didn't make me weightless. Ochako tilted her head at him and smiled as well. I guess so. It's really cool how compatible our quirks are, huh? Yeah, it is, Izuku smiled. If Yua lets us, we should work on combination moves. Why are you so sure that I'll get into Yua? Ochako pouted. I told you, I just have a feeling. No offense, but that's not very reassuring. Well, we'll see. As the two reached the shopping center, their conversation quickly shifted to more simple matters, such as where to go. They started by simply walking around to see what stores were there, but eventually started browsing through a convenience store and then a department store. They didn't buy anything, but Ochako was constantly commenting about how everything was too expensive, much to Izuku's amusement. They ended up going to an arcade, too. Although Ochako didn't want to spend too much money there either, before they even knew it. It was already time for lunch, so they headed to a traditional Japanese restaurant that was also in the shopping center to eat. Izuku ordered katsudon and Ochako ordered sushi. And as they ate, they talked more about the area, their favorite heroes, and other things. I can't believe it slipped my mind earlier, Ochako said, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. But I meant to ask about your run this morning. I mean, how long was it? It was about 4 miles, Izuku said nonchalantly. Their katsudon isn't as good as my mom's. You ran 4 miles? Geez, I know I can't do that in one day. Ochako glanced down for about the 10th time that day as a gust of wind blew Izuku's shirt against his abs, letting their outline become apparent. She wasn't staring because she liked him or anything. She wouldn't do that, right? No, she was just impressed by the hard work he must have put in. Sure, he had a pretty good figure, and a really nice personality, and his face was pretty plain yet cute too, and his hair looked so soft. And he had such pretty green eyes that she currently found herself lost in. But no, that isn't how it is, she thought as she shook the thoughts from her head and took another bite of sushi. Besides, there's no way he'd think that way about me. Anyway, Izuku sighed as he finished the last of his meal. How much longer do you want to stay out? We could go to the park, or the beach that's nearby or something. There's a beach here, Ochako asked, looking back up at him. I didn't even realize that. It's called the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. It used to be a junkyard, until pretty recently. What do you mean by that? Well, the current washed a lot of garbage ashore. It built up. Then people started to hide their own illegal dumping in with the pile. It was pretty bad. But someone cleaned it. Oh, I cleaned it. As part of my training with All Might. How big is the beach? Ochako asked, not sure what to expect given what she already knew about him. Izuku pulled out his phone and began looking for the local news article that talked about it. Well, the garbage spanned for about half a kilometer, I think. Maybe a little more. How long did it take you to clean? About a month, I think. Here. Izuku handed Ochako his phone, showing before and after shots of the beach. It's gotten pretty popular since then. Sure, let's go, Ochako said, getting up from their table. The photos look beautiful, but I want to see what it looks like in person. They approached the register, and Ochako paid for both of their meals before Izuku could even reach for his own wallet. He found this very odd, since she had been openly displaying her frugality all day and had even told him that her family was poor. As they left the shopping center, Ochako looked over to the shops one more time. Is that a matcha shop? She exclaimed, pointing at said matcha shop. Yeah, Izuku replied. Do you like matcha? It's my favorite, she cried, drooling a little bit. Then she clutched at her stomach and sighed. But I'm so full right now, I can't. Well, we can get it later, after we check out the beach. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, Ochako conceded, following Izuku onto the sidewalk. They chatted a bit, but halfway to the beach, Izuku brought up what he had been thinking about for a while. Why did you pay for my katsudon? He asked. Well, that's just my start on repaying you, Ochako said in an almost melodic tone. You know, for saving my life in the exam. I told you, you don't need to repay me for anything. Don't say that. I wouldn't be alive right now if it weren't for you. Well, Izuku sighed as he glanced at her from the corner of his eye. I guess I can't argue against that, but I don't want you to owe me anything for it. You can't stop me, Ochako insisted with a small giggle. I guess not. Oh, we're here. Izuku pointed forward at the metal guard rail overlooking the beach park. Ochako looked out over the bright sand and blue water, populated with people enjoying the beach. A salty breeze blew across her face, and she couldn't help but smile at the experience. It's beautiful, she said quietly. There was no better way for her to describe it. Turning to Izuku, she said, "People get to enjoy this because of you, Midoriya. That's pretty cool, you know?" "Yeah, I guess so," he replied, smiling as he watched the families relax and play on the beach he had restored. The two of them ended up walking along the beach for hours, talking pleasantly about nothing important. The topic came up about Izuku having other friends, and he avoided it as best he could. Ochako made a mental note about his reluctance to talk about it, but moved on with the conversation like she hadn't noticed. There was a game of volleyball, a group of performers, and a few other amusing sights along the way. There was even a villain attack, although it was pretty short and disappointing compared to most. Neither of them noticed that they were out so long, until they saw the sun getting low to the horizon, and the glint reflecting off of the water. "Whoa, what time is it?" Ochako asked as she looked out over the water. Izuku checked his phone and gasped as he saw the time and 6 missed calls from his mom. "It's almost 6, he said, his voice squeezing into a higher octave. "My mom called me 6 times. I forgot my phone was on silent." "What?" Ochako cried. "We should get going." They both started back to Ochako's apartment in a quick walk, and Izuku called his mom to apologize vehemently for staying out so long without letting her know. She was fine with it, but she wanted him home because she was making dinner. When they reached Ochako's apartment, Izuku walked her to the door. "Thanks for taking me out today, Midoriya," Ochako said with a small smile. "I'm kinda glad that we lost track of time, you know. The beach looked so pretty this late." "Yeah," Izuku agreed. "But we never went to get matcha, did we?" Ochako pouted as she suddenly remembered the matcha shop. "Well, how about this?" Izuku proposed. "After we get our acceptance letters from UA, we can go there to celebrate." Well, Ochako was about to say again that she might not be accepted, but decided against it. "I might end up going there on my own in the meantime." "That's fine," Izuku laughed. "I really need to go home now, though. It was nice to spend time with you, Uraraka." "Yeah, it was good to see you too. See ya later, Midoriya." Ochako waved as Izuku started running off to catch the next train home. She was filled with some odd happiness as she thought about the events of the day. She was glad that Izuku was the first friend she made here, but there was something else too. It was some warm, good feeling that she could feel in her chest. She couldn't place it, but it definitely wasn't that she liked him beyond friendship. No way. When Izuku got home, he received a light scolding from his mother, although she was more worried than angry. After eating, Izuku went through the hero news of the day, as always. Over the next week, Izuku and Ochako kept in touch, and Izuku busied himself with his workout routines and school. He tried to contact All Might multiple times, but his messages were always left on read. It was a rather uneventful week. Katsuki kept bragging about his high score of 77 villain points to his classmates, and he took Izuku's silence about his score to mean that he had failed miserably, so he left him alone for the most part. The week flew by, and before Izuku even realized, it was Saturday evening. The time that letters should arrive from UA, he was in the middle of a conversation with Ochako on the phone when his mother excitedly knocked on his door, calling his name. "I gotta go, Uraraka," Izuku said into the phone as he got up. "My mom needs me for something." "Oh, your acceptance letter probably got there," she replied brightly. "My mail should get here in about 10-ish minutes, too." "Well, have fun being accepted." "Yeah, you too." "If I get accepted." "You will." "Yeah, sure. I'll text you later." "All right, I'll be waiting. Talk to you later. Bye." Izuku hung up and quickly opened the door, which his mother was still rapidly knocking on. "Izuku," Inko screeched, holding an envelope up to her son. "Izuku, it's here. The letter." "Ah, my ears," Izuku muttered, rubbing his temple and holding up his other hand at his mother. "Yeah, I kind of guessed that. Let's open it. I want to see your face when you get in," Inko smiled proudly with a hint of tears behind her glistening eyes. All right, Izuku chuckled, taking the envelope. As Izuku walked toward the living room with his mom, he noted the heft of the envelope and the presence of a small circle-shaped object in its center. He sat down on the couch next to the excited Inko and opened the letter on the coffee table, first sliding out the disc that he felt. It beeped once before erupting with a blue glow, and a hologram projection filled the air above it. I am here as a projection. The booming voice of All Might roared as his form became apparent in the hologram. Eh? All Might? Izuku exclaimed, glancing down at the envelope labeled Yua. This is from Yua, isn't it? Inko was equally confused, as she was well aware that All Might wasn't affiliated with the high school. I have been busy, so I haven't been able to contact you, young Midoriya. My apologies. But, you see, the entire reason I came to this prefecture was for my new job. I'll be teaching at Yua. Izuku's jaw dropped at the announcement. All Might? At Yua, Izuku thought as he began smiling. No way. A hand popped into the hologram, gesturing at All Might to get on with it. Get it over with? But I have things that I need to, All Might debates with a hand. Whatever needs to be said can be said later. It'll push everything back. Well then, young Midoriya, you passed both the written exam and the practical exam, and have gained admittance to Yua High. I'm sure that you already know that, but there's more. You scored 51 villain points in the practical exam, which was the third highest amount out of the examinees. Well done. On top of the villain points, though, we were testing your resolves to be true heroes. The will to give up one's own energy, time, effort, and well-being to help others was also considered. I heard about your efforts regarding Ochako Uraraka, and saw your interactions during the exam. So, I thought I should let you know directly. This exam was also graded using rescue points. They were awarded by a panel of judges based on your actions in the exam. For saving Uraraka, breaking your own bones in the process, and later offering up your own points for her benefit, you get 50 rescue points. And for young Uraraka, for assisting with a robot when she was so exhausted and injured and had her own lower score, and also for inspiring you to take your own action, she also gets 50 rescue points. All Might gestures to a screen behind him, showing the top 10 scorers in the practical exam. In first place, with a total of 101 points, was Izuku himself. He couldn't even believe that he had been the top scorer, let alone by such a large margin. In second place, much to Izuku's joy, was Ochako Uraraka. Her 28 villain points and her 50 rescue points added up to 78 in total. And she thought she wouldn't pass. Izuku sighed inwardly as he grew incredibly proud of her. The third place spot almost made Izuku burst out in laughter. But the whole situation was going by so fast that he didn't even have time. Katsuki Bakugo had gotten third place with 77 villain points and 0 rescue points. He technically had the most villain points out of all of the examinees, yet was considered third due to the wrench thrown in that was the rescue points. Even more amusing to Izuku was the fact that he lost to Ochako by 1 point. He was actually almost scared of Katsuki for the first time in a long time. He had no idea what he'd do in those circumstances. So, young Midoriya, All Might continued, his smile somehow widening even more. You both passed. Now, come. Yua High will be your hero academia. With that, the hologram shut down. Izuku sat there for a moment, processing everything, before his mother tackled him off of the couch in a tight hug, crying happily and proudly. Izuku looked at the forms in the envelope after his mom calmed down. Since he had gotten first place in the entrance exam, he would be the first-year student representative that would speak before UAS annual sports festival. He was extremely excited about that. Class 1A in UAS Hero course would be his new class at the beginning of the next semester. He wondered if Ochako would also be in the same class. And when he thought of her, he remembered that they were planning to go to the mochai shop. She was getting her mail after him, so he had time. Time enough to wash off the stench of sweat and bow that had accumulated through his day of working out. Underscore when Izuku got out of the shower. He was greeted by a text from Ochako that read I got in. Asterisk excited emojis asterisk. Izuku sent her a text asking if she was still up for matcha, since they hadn't discussed it after the initial suggestion, and she quickly replied that she would love to. So Izuku finished freshening up and made his way out of his house, then to Ochako's apartment. Hey Midoriya, Ochako greeted, jumping out from the door and quickly closing it behind her. Let's go get matcha. Why yeah. Gee, good evening, Izuku stuttered, once again caught off guard by her prompt door answer and energetic attitude. I'm so excited to get into you, she said as they started walking toward the shopping center. And second place, too. I had no idea about the rescue points. But your score was big. Well, I guess. Izuku scratched his cheek and looked off to the side. I'm about as surprised as you. You got all those rescue points on top of your villain points. The other applicants are probably intimidated by your score, honestly. She laughed a little bit, but then her face went straight. Speaking of intimidated, did you see the guy who got third? He got 77 villain points and 0 rescue points. Sounds like he's probably pretty brutal. Oh, you mean Kaken? Ochako looked at him, a little confused. Oh, I meant Katsuki Bakugo. That's his name. Did you just say Kaken? Ochako laughed. Is that a nickname or something? Do you know him? Oh, yeah. We've known each other for our entire lives. Well, maybe he's not so brutal then. No, he is. Definitely. Ochako noticed something odd in the tone of Izuku's voice. Are you guys friends? We used to be. Not anymore, though. Why? Well, it's a pretty long story. I don't want to bore you. Well, you don't need to go into detail. I want to know, though. Izuku considered it for a moment and decided that he didn't have a reason not to tell her, unlike his training with All Might, which he had let slip anyways. Well, we were friends when we were really little. But the quirk he got was really strong. He got arrogant and started bullying me because my quirk hadn't come in yet. Geez, what an idiot, Ochako sighed. What's his quirk? Explosion. He can secrete a nitroglycerin-based liquid from his hands like sweat and detonate it remotely. It's one of the most versatile quirks I've ever seen. He can create massive explosions or just little pops. He can propel himself, use it to attack, or use it to maneuver midair. It's really strong. But yours is too, right? He doesn't know that. My quirk was weak when it first manifested, so he still bullied me even then. I've been training my quirk though, so I can show him that I'm stronger than him one day. I think that's super cool and inspiring, Ochako said, smiling. A story about overcoming a bully is always good. Still, I hope he isn't in my class. I can only imagine how pissed he'll be that he got third place. Something that Ochako had said just clicked in Izuku's head. Uraraka, what class will you be in? Huh? Oh, I'm in 1A. I'm in 1A too. They both smiled and cheered and high-fived as they realized that they'd be classmates at UA then. As they finally reached the matcha shop, their talk went back to their regular friendly chatting about less important things. They both seemed to know what they wanted to order beforehand, and since they couldn't decide who would pay, they just paid separately. Before too long, they sat down at an outside table with their rice cake ice cream desserts. Their strawberry matcha is good, Ochako exclaimed after taking a bite. What flavor did you get, Midoriya? Green tea. It's pretty good, too. Green tea? That's an interesting flavor. It's my mom's favorite, so I guess it just rubbed off on me. Are you sure it isn't because your name is Green? Ochako chuckled. No, it's because yours is Tea Girl, Midoriya laughed too. He hadn't really meant anything by it, but he realized how weird it sounded when he looked up and saw that Ochako's blush had grown beyond what it normally was. Pretty quickly, Ochako recovered and laughed. Hey, our hero duo name should be Green Tea. They both laughed at the thought of a hero duo named Green Tea. The thought was entertaining to them, to say the least. They had only been laughing for a few seconds. However, when Izuku caught a glimpse of a pair of blonde, spiky heads of hair walking across from them in the lot, Katsuki Bakugo and his mother, Mitsuki, were on their way to the supermarket in that shopping center. Izuku didn't think that they'd seen him, but he could see Katsuki's extremely aggravated scowl from the chair he was now sinking back into. Hey Midoriya, what's wrong? Ochako asked, concerned about his obvious discomfort. Oh, it's nothing, Izuku said quickly, sitting back up in his seat. I just saw Kaken. I don't think he saw me, though. You mean the bully that got 77 villain points? Ochako inquired, her eyebrows furrowing. What's he doing here? Probably just going to the store. He lives around here too, you know. Izuku looked back toward the supermarket, but saw Mitsuki walking into the store alone. Katsuki was, instead, walking across the parking lot straight toward the matcha shop. He had an unfamiliar look on his face. He was still scowling angrily, but it was different than normal. And never mind, he's coming this way, Izuku stammered, facing back towards Ochako and taking another shaky bite of his mochai. I swear, if he says one thing, don't do anything to upset him too much, please. Ochako furrowed her brow, but nodded at him. She looked at the sour-looking blonde approaching the shop, which she assumed was the guy Izuku was talking about. He walked directly to their table and only glanced at Ochako for a second before turning to Izuku with an intense look. You piece of shit, worthless, fucking Deku, he said harshly, and almost in a whisper. He again glanced at Ochako. Who the fuck is round-faced? Your shitty girlfriend or something? And no, Kaken, Izuku denied, more embarrassed than scared. I know her from the practical exam. Oh, yeah, the exam. Katsuki let out a small pop that shook the table. How the fuck did you get such a high score? I mean, I know you cheated, but whose dick did you suck to get so many points? I didn't do anything, Kaken. I don't know about the rescue points, but I did get 51 villain points. Rescue points. Katsuki clicked his tongue and shot his glare away. They're fucking pointless. You don't need to save people if you just beat up the villains they'd need saving from. That's not true, Izuku said. Heroes are public servants, not just crime fighters. That's a damn boring way of looking at heroes. Katsuki turned to Ochako, still frowning. You took the exam too, round face? Why, yes, Ochako replied nervously, unprepared to talk with Katsuki. And my name's Uraraka. Well, round face, he emphasized pointedly. Considering the fact that you're eating with Deku, instead of crying in the corner of your room, I'll guess that you passed. Mind telling me your score? Ochako started to reply, but Izuku interrupted. She does mind. Leave us alone, Kaken. Let the girl talk, dumbass Deku. Katsuki looked at Izuku with a death stare. Turning back to Ochako, he asked again, what's your fucking score? I got. She glanced back and forth between Izuku and Katsuki a few times before admitting. IGG got 78. HMPH, Katsuki grunted. I'll let you both know right now, you aren't shit compared to me. I'm going to become the #1 hero, and you two won't be anywhere close to me. He turned to Izuku, looking like he wanted to add something else, but decided against it and walked away. Izuku and Ochako both watched silently as he stalked off toward the supermarket. Ochako looked down and pouted when she saw that the ice cream in her mochai had mostly melted, before looking back up at Izuku. Whoa, he's intimidating, she said, glancing once again at Katsuki as he entered the store. There's no way someone like him can become the #1 hero. Well, he has a pretty good chance if he can get that attitude under control, Izuku sighed, inspecting his own melted mochai. You're right that heroes are more than crime fighters, Ochako said. Heroes are people that help others, just like you helped me in the exam. And, and even after the exam, you have a way better chance. Izuku looked up from his mochai. After the exam. Oh, in the message I was sent. They played a video that showed you talking with President Mike. I really appreciate everything you said, by the way. Oh, Izuku desperately thought back to that day, trying to remember what he had said to present Mike. Did I say anything embarrassing? Well, you said my face is round, Ochako said, chuckling a little bit. Izuku's entire face blanched. Ah, no. I didn't mean that wasn't meant as an insult at anything, I just… Ochako laughed as Izuku stammered for some excuse. You called me cute, too, she thought, smiling. For the first time, Ochako really took a conscious look at Izuku. She scrutinized his face, his body that she couldn't help but notice during the exam, and when they last went out, his frizzy hair, green eyes, freckles, the cute embarrassed face he was currently making. He thinks I'm cute? She shook her head to get rid of the thought, and tried to think of something to change the subject to. Izuku went on without noticing that Ochako's blush widened. It's fine. I didn't take it that way, she said with a chuckle. Hey, Midoriya. Why did Bakugo call you Deku? Oh, it's just a nickname that he gave me a long time ago. Why? Oh, it's another way to read my name. It means someone who can't do anything. Oh, I see. Ochako thought for a moment before smiling. Well, I like how it sounds. It kinda sounds like Deku. You can do it, you know. I guess I never thought of it that way. Izuku smiled at Ochako. You can call me that if you want. All right, Deku. Ochako giggled as she called Izuku by the nickname. Ooh, I like it. I'll call you Deku from now on, then. All right, Izuku said, chuckling a little uncomfortably. And nobody had ever called me that, except to bully me. I think I like it. That's good, she sighed, before standing up from the table. I think we should get going. Oh, yeah, Izuku agreed as he stood up. The mochai was pretty good, huh? Yeah, I'll come back here sometime. The two of them once again made their way to Ochako's apartment, talking the whole way. It didn't take long to get over the Katsuki encounter, so they quickly re-entered their standard friendly chatter. Anyway, Ochako sighed as they reached her door. Thanks again. I had a great time. Yeah, me too, Izuku said, before scrunching up his face. Except for running into Kaken, I guess. Despite that, I'll see you later, Deku. Izuku blushed and laughed a little bit at the new nickname. Why, yeah, I'll see you later, Uraraka. As she closed the door behind her, Ochako let out a sigh. Izuku really seemed amazing to her. The training from All Might, his score in the exam, and the fact that he put up with Katsuki on a daily basis were all so incredible. This fluttering that she felt in her stomach whenever she was with him. It must have been pure admiration. That's the word she wanted. Admiration. Admiration for this boy who thought that she was cute. God, he thinks I'm cute, she thought, smiling to herself and blushing. The next night. Izuku got a message from All Might to meet him at the beach. Izuku didn't even question it. He got out of the house in less than 5 minutes. All Might, Izuku called as he approached the emaciated man on the beach. Who's that? Toshinori replied, gesturing to two people on the beach who had heard Izuku's calling. He whispered, Repeat after me. My mistake, wrong person. My mistake, wrong person. Izuku yelled more than loud enough for the couple to hear him. Young Midoriya, Toshinori exclaimed as he put his hands on Izuku's shoulders. I can't express how proud I am of you. Not only have you gotten better with your quirk, but your selflessness is continually inspiring. I thank you all. Shush. Toshinori shushed sharply, covering Izuku's mouth with his hand. And by the way, I didn't let the school or the judges know about your connection with me. You seem like the kind of person who would be dissatisfied with favoritism. Thank you, Mr. Yagi. I really appreciate everything. It's been incredible to train with you, and everything. And I'm so happy with the opportunity to go to UA and your teaching there. Listen, Midoriya, I can't train you anymore. As a teacher at UA, I'll have no time to foster your individual growth. Yes, that's fine. I feel like I've already accepted too much help, so I'll be fine. Ahaha, of course you will be. Izuku expected to be called into the principal's office with Katsuki because they both got into UA. The meeting had gone exactly how he thought it would, with the principal congratulating them both on a job well done. But that day, before going home, Katsuki grabbed Izuku and pulled him into an alley near the school. We never finished our talk on Saturday, Deku, he growled, shoving Izuku against the wall. What? Are you looking down on me out something? Did you cheat? Or did you just pretend that your damn quirk was worthless all these years and laugh while I bought it? And no, Kaken, I didn't try to. Izuku started before being cut off. I was supposed to be the only one from this shitty school to make it into UA. I told you not to apply, you asked. I guess I was too easy on you, and I hardly trained. Well, I'm not slacking anymore. You hear me, fucking Deku. I'm going to get so strong that you can't even hope to match me. Get off of me, Kaken, Izuku said quietly, gripping Katsuki's arm that held his shirt collar. Or fucking what, Deku? Are you gonna fight me or some shit? Huh. Get off. Suddenly, a green glow enveloped Katsuki, and he flew back against the wall opposite of Izuku. Izuku might have put a bit too much force into that, but he wasn't focusing on that at the moment. Ark, fucking Deku, I can't move, Katsuki shouted as small explosions popped around his hands. I'm not scared of you, Kaken. I've never been scared of you, Izuku shouted, brimming with anger. I have my own dreams to follow, and you won't get in the way. I'll become a great hero, Kaken. Number 1. And you'll see me do it in front of you. Izuku stormed off toward his house, releasing Katsuki from his quirk as he did so. He was instantly disgusted with himself. He had vowed never to use his quirk violently against an innocent, even Katsuki, but he had let himself lose it for just a few seconds. So, he promptly renewed that promise to himself. Despite his frustration with himself, he was conscious enough to be surprised that Katsuki didn't chase him down right then and fight him. He was even more surprised when Katsuki stopped teasing him altogether in school. They didn't even acknowledge each other's existence for the most part. Izuku could tell, though, that something changed. Somehow, he could tell that Katsuki was taking him seriously now. But that'd only push Izuku to work harder, too. It was April, the beginning of the new school semester. For most, it meant moving up a grade or attending a new school. For a select few, it could mean a new chapter in one's life, new opportunities, challenges, victory, defeat. It could change everything for some people. That's what it felt like for Izuku as he finished lacing up his red sneakers that morning. Today, he'd be attending UA. Japan's most sought-after hero course was held there, and the school has produced many high-ranking heroes, including All Might. This was the start of Izuku's journey, too. Despite his lack of ability in tying his tie. Do you have everything you need? Inko asked her son as he stood up to leave. Yeah, I have everything, he confirmed, hoisting his backpack over his shoulder. I should get going, or I'll be late. Izuku opened the door, but stopped when his mother said his name. He turned to look at her as she smiled softly and looked down at the ground. Izuku, you've worked so hard, and I'm so proud, she sighed, wiping a tear from her eye. She looked up at him. You're really cool. Izuku smiled at his mother, before departing with, I'm off. Izuku was aware of the situation he was in, almost painfully so. The acceptance rate for UA's hero course was 1 in every 300. Every year, it's done the same way. except for 4 that get in through recommendation. 36 students are put through by the entrance exam and split into 2 classes, and he was considered the best of them. Out of the elite few that were worthy of attending UA, he had outscored all of them on the exam. The pressure on his shoulders was immense. Walking the school grounds and looking for his classroom, Izuku realized just how big UA really was. He was able to find his class in time though, and was shocked at the huge door that stood before him. He assumed it was for accessibility, since some people had enlarging quirks. He just hoped that Katsuki wouldn't be in his class, or the jerk with the glasses either. He knew that Ochako would be in the same class, and that gave him some comfort, at least. Using that thought to soothe his worries, he smiled and opened the door to his future. "Remove your feet from the desk at once," was the first thing Izuku heard when he slid open the door. He saw Katsuki with his feet up on his desk and examining #70111 standing over him, chopping his arm in an almost robotic manner. Great. Izuku didn't know if he could make it through a single day if he had both of these assholes on his case. Huh? Katsuki leaned his head to the side as he sneered up at the other student. It is disrespectful to both the upperclassmen who once used the desk and to the people who constructed it. I don't think it is. What junior high did you go to, you side character? The other one gasped at first, before straightening his posture and planting his hand on his chest. I attended Sumi Private Academy. My name is Tenya Ada. Sumi? Katsuki laughed. So you're one of the damn elite, eh? I'll have fun crushing you. See, crushing? Tenya repeated, taking a step back. That's cruel. Do you really intend to be a hero? Katsuki scoffed and looked away. But when he did, he saw Izuku standing in the doorway to the classroom. He scowled at him, and Tenya followed his line of sight to also see Izuku. You're... Tenya gasped as he recognized Izuku. The rest of the students present were watching the exchange between Katsuki and Tenya, so they all looked at Izuku as well. Izuku used this opportunity to look over the students for a moment. Ochako wasn't there yet, but he did recognize a couple of them from the entrance exam. Namely, the feminine blonde boy and the one with 6 arms. Suddenly, Tenya began walking quickly towards Izuku, almost shouting, "Good morning. I am from Sumi Private Academy. My name is..." I heard, Izuku interrupted, stopping Tenya in his tracks. I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's, nice to meet you, Ida. He wasn't really sure if they were on bad terms, so he decided to be polite at least. Midoriya, Tenya said, almost sounding a little somber. You realized that there was more to that practical exam. I had no idea. I hate to admit it, but you are better than me. He looked down, squinting his eyes and holding his arms out at Izuku in the same way he'd held one out at Katsuki. And no, I didn't realize anything, Izuku said, waving his arms at Tenya, who he was suddenly starting to like a little bit more. I had no idea about the rescue points. Before Tenya could respond, an energetic Deku came from behind Izuku. Before he turned to face Uraraka, who he knew it was, Izuku saw something snap in Katsuki's expression, probably being a mixture of shock, confusion, and annoyance at the nickname. Ah, hey Uraraka, he said as he turned, before freezing as soon as he saw her. She looks really cute in a uniform, he thought to himself as his face reddened a little. Man, I'm so excited to be in the hero course, you know, Ochako said, not noticing the blush on Izuku's face. And I wonder who our teacher will be. They're all supposed to be pro-heroes, right? Ah, why, yeah, Izuku replied, averting his eyes to the ground. It could really be anyone. Ochako looked around at the class and flinched when she made eye contact with Katsuki, who was glaring more menacingly by the second. Yeep, the mean one is here, she shouted, pointing at the explosive blonde. Most of the students glanced at Katsuki and started muttering amongst themselves. If you're here to start drama or socialize, then leave, came a dull, droning voice from the doorway. Everyone looked, and saw a yellow caterpillar lying on the floor outside of the door. At least, many of them thought it was a caterpillar. The face poking out of the yellow mass had a scruffy beard, bags under its eyes, and long black hair poking out from the sides of the face hole. "This is the hero course," the caterpillar continued, before reaching a hand out of the face hole and taking a long sip from a juice pouch, emptying it. There's someone in there," somebody in the class exclaimed. The man stood up, shedding his caterpillar-like sleeping bag and looming over the students. He wore all black and had a gray scarf around his neck. "It took all of you 8 seconds to quiet down," he sighed, shaking his head. "Time is a valuable resource. You're all too irrational. I'm Shota Aizawa, your new homeroom teacher. I'm pleased to meet you all." Many of the students gasped in confusion at the fact that Aizawa would be their homeroom teacher. Izuku, on the other hand, was more concerned with what pro-hero he was. He didn't look familiar to Izuku at all, and he was pretty well versed in the roster of professional heroes in Japan. "Put these on," Aizawa said, pulling gym uniforms out of his sleeping bag. "Once you all change, head out to the grounds. Quickly now, like you're rational people." After changing in the locker rooms quickly, for fear of Aizawa's wrath, the students of Wana reassembled on the school's training field. In front of them was Aizawa, and on the floor next to him was a white chalk circle with 2 measured lines shooting out farther than they could see. "Today, I'll be conducting a test of your quirks," Aizawa said plainly. "A test of our quirks?" the entire class echoed. "But what about the entrance ceremony?" Ochako objected. "Or the guidance sessions?" "We can't waste time on pleasantries like that if you want to become heroes," he responded, not even looking at her. "UA is known for its freestyle education system, and that applies to teachers too. Softball throwing, the standing long jump, 50-meter dash, endurance running, grip strength, side-to-side stepping, upper body training, and the seated toe touch are all exercises you've done in middle school. You've never been able to use your quirks for these. This country insists on using non-quirked averages for them. The government is procrastinating, which isn't rational at all." "Midoriya," Aizawa said, gesturing to the circle behind him. "You placed first in the entrance exam, so step up. How far could you throw a soft ball in middle school?" I think 54 meters, Izuku said, struggling to remember as he stepped into the circle. "That isn't too bad." He tossed a softball to Izuku, who barely caught it after fumbling with it for a couple seconds. "Now, launch it as far as you can with your quirk. Do whatever you need to. Just don't leave the circle. Give it all you've got." "All right." Izuku let out a deep breath and closed his eyes. He held up the ball loosely in the palm of his hand, concentrating. Everything about Izuku's quirk relied on the object's weight. How fast he could move it, the range at which he could continue to influence it, and how much strain prolonged use put on him. The only aspect of his quirk unaffected by this was the fact that he needed to be within 15 meters of any object to activate it. With a ball this light, he could move it very quickly and easily, and he would be able to continue pushing it for a great distance before letting the laws of physics take the reins. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. He didn't move a finger. He flicked his eyes, but that couldn't be seen underneath his eyelids. All anyone saw was the ball starting to glow a little bit before rocketing off at an immense speed. Aizawa started talking again, but Izuku focused more on continuing to push the ball as long as he could until it was out of range. "It's important to know our limits," Aizawa said, looking over the group of hopefuls. "That's the first rational step to knowing what kind of heroes you'll be." There was a long silence as Izuku made his way back to the crowd of students, stretching his shoulders as he walked. Everyone was waiting for his score. It was out of Izuku's control now, since it was out of range, and he had no idea how long it'd take to land. Aizawa seemed unfazed by the time it took. "Wow, it must have gone far," Ochako mused, the rest of the class agreeing. Suddenly, Aizawa's face donned a smile. He turned the small device in his hand so that everybody could see the score. 1,244.7 meters. The entire class exclaimed in unison. This is awesome. We can use our quirks? Sweet. I love this course already. While everyone else celebrated, Katsuki just glared at the number on the device. Awesome, you say? Aizawa said, his smile widening and becoming a bit sadistic. You all want to become heroes in the next 3 years, and you think it'll be all fun and games. All right, how about this? The student with the lowest score across all 8 events will be deemed as having no potential, and will be expelled from the hero course. While the class began freaking out, Aizawa's voice cut through, and he pushed his hair away from his face. Your fates are in our hands. This is the hero course at UA. Izuku even felt the pressure. He wasn't actually concerned for himself, but for whoever would be in last. He knew that everyone there worked hard to get accepted. They all passed the practical exam, except for the recommended students. Everyone here dreamed to be a hero, and one of them was about to have that dream crushed. What kind of pro-hero was Aizawa? Expelled? Ochako exclaimed. But it's the first day of school. No, this would be too unfair, even if it wasn't the first day. Natural disasters, big accidents, and selfish villains, Aizawa listed. Calamities whose time or place are unpredictable. This world is filled with unfairness. True heroes are those who can reverse unfair situations. If you want to hang out with friends at McDonald's after school, then too bad. For the next 3 years, UA will do everything it can to place hardship after hardship in front of you. Go beyond. Plus ultra overcome with everything you have. Tenya started drinking orange juice from his hydro flask. Katsuki began stretching his arms and legs, and the whole class was getting pumped up. That didn't distract Izuku from the fact that someone was leaving them already. But he decided to focus on his own score. The demonstration is over, Aizawa sighed, losing his momentary vigor. First, the 50-meter dash. The top scorer in the 50-meter dash was Tenya. With his engine quirk, he finished in 3.4 seconds. Most other times were 5 or more seconds, with a couple exceptions. Katsuki got 4.03 seconds by shooting explosions behind him, and Izuku got 4.63 by essentially flying the whole way. In grip strength, the 6-armed guy named Mizo Shoji was first with over 540 kilograms of force. Izuku used his telekinesis to press his fingers onto the measurement device, exerting 140 kilograms before hurting his fingers too much. In the standing long jump, quite a few of the students jumped past where the measurement devices were. Izuku probably got in the top 5 if he had to guess, though. In the side-to-side stepping, the biggest standout was actually a small boy with purple balls for hair, Minoru Mainta, who Izuku hadn't even noticed before. In the ball throw, Katsuki got 714 meters, which seemed to tick him off. Ochako made her ball weightless before throwing it up into the sky. The infinity symbol actually popped up on the device. Another girl, Momo Yaoyorozu, made an actual cannon to shoot the ball from. Nothing extraordinary happened in the sit-ups, sitting toe touch, or the long-distance run. But Izuku was in the top few of each of them, particularly using his quirk to push himself further in the toe touch. When everything was all said and done, Aizawa gathered the students again next to the locker rooms. Let's get to the results quickly, Aizawa sighed. The scores are the sum of all of your performances in the tasks. Explaining the calculations would be useless and time-consuming, so here are the results. Izuku was first. Even though he was sure that he technically didn't get first in a single event, his average score was higher than anyone else's. He had the highest score, followed extremely closely by Momo, who was a recommended student, Katsuki, and then the other recommended student, Shoto. All the way in last place was Minoru Mainta, who was letting out a mournful wail. Aizawa glanced at the 20th spot for a moment, considering it, before closing the rankings. Minta, come with me to the office, the teacher said, waving him over. I'll switch you out with a student that's in the general education course. I won't be expelled from UA, Minoru exclaimed, a tear falling from his eye. Just from the hero course. You can choose other options if you really want to, though. There are other schools with hero courses to transfer into. I guess I can still be a hero, at least. Why, you mean you were serious? Momo asked, wide-eyed. I was certain that you just wanted to motivate us. I'm sure that you now understand the position this course puts you in, he responded, almost sounding bored. The rest of you go back to class, where there are curriculum handouts. Take a look at them. Aizawa placed his hand on Minoru's shoulder and walked him back into the building towards the office. The rest of the class changed and then walked back to the classroom. Poor Minta, Ochako sighed, walking next to Izuku. I kinda hoped he was lying, but Sensei really kicked him from the class. Yeah, Izuku agreed. I guess this course is really for the best of the best. Speaking of the best, you did amazing, Deku, Ochako exclaimed, smiling widely at him. You even outscored the students who got in through recommendation. I know. I have to say though, your softball throw was really cool too. Ah, thanks. Ochako blushed a bit and looked down. That means a lot coming from first place. Izuku didn't realize it until he entered the classroom. But his desk was behind Katsuki's. He was hoping to avoid him, but it seemed like that wasn't going to happen. Hey, Deku, Katsuki grunted after shoving the papers into his backpack. Kaken, don't make a scene on the first day, Izuku said, meeting Katsuki's glare. You. Katsuki took a deep breath. Were you really hiding your quirk's strength this whole time? You never showed this kind of control before. He looked like he intended to kill Izuku right there with that look of rage on his face. I'm not like you, Kaken. I don't show off and bully others just because I'm stronger. I never said that my quirk was weak. I just never had a reason to use it. You never fought back, Katsuki said, poking his finger into Izuku's chest. And you expect me to believe that your quirk was this strong the whole time? Stop making a scene. Fuck that. Why the fuck didn't you ever fight back? Because I'm better than that. I'll see you tomorrow. Izuku left without looking back. But he didn't need to. Katsuki was too shocked by what he had said to make a move after him. Izuku somehow knew that he wouldn't go after him, since he mostly left him alone after they talked with their principal at Aldera. Ochako did run out after him though, followed by Tenya. Deku, Ochako called, running up next to him. Man, that was tense. I told him not to make a scene, Izuku sighed, shaking his head slightly. He's just so frustrating. She said you never fought back, Ochako said. I mean, I already knew that, but why didn't you? I agree with her, Tenya said, appearing on Izuku's other side out of nowhere. If he has been bothering you for a long time, then you should stand up to him. Why, you're Tenya Ida, right? Ochako asked, tilting her head past Izuku at him. Yes, I am. You are Infinity Girl. Infinity Girl? Izuku thought, chuckling. Ochako Uraraka. Nice to meet you, Ida. Ochako looked back at Izuku. So, why didn't you ever stop him before? Because that's what I hate most about him, Izuku sighed. He's so aggressive and arrogant, and he shows off his quirk just because he can. He looks down on people. Hurting innocent people with your quirk is the last thing that a hero should do. I thought that, if I fought back, then I wouldn't be much better than him. That's not true whatsoever, Tenya said, chopping his arm into his other hand. It would be out of self-defense if you decided to do so. Why, yeah, Ochako agreed, looking back at Tenya. What are you doing here, Ida? Well, I'm going to the station, Tenya explained. Also, I wanted to speak with Midoriya. Congratulations on being first once again. It's being proven that I was wrong about you again and again today. It's fine, Izuku said, waving him off. We were all a bit stressed over the entrance exam. Excuse me, Ida, Ochako said, arching an eyebrow. But what did you say to Deku during the exam? Well, he looked like he was going to try to distract you from the exam. So I thought he was there to intervene with the applicants. Try to distract me. Ochako looked back to Izuku. I saw you before the exam started, and I was going to thank you again for stopping my fall, Izuku said. It was a misunderstanding on my part, Tenya said, placing his hand on his chest. I apologize. And not necessary, Izuku chuckled. Anyway, Tenya said, taking on a grave tone. Aizawa-sensei is ruthless. I knew that this would be the top, but it's going to be more difficult than I thought. We're the best of the best, right? Izuku sighed. It'll have to be tough. I don't feel like the best of the best, Ochako sighed. But you two sure are great. You did better than most people could, Uraraka. Plus you placed second in the practical exam. You're right where you should be. Izuku smiled at Ochako, who blushed. You think so? Tenya asked. Uraraka, are you all right? You're a bit red. I'm fine. Are you sure you don't have a fever? While Ochako and Tenya went back and forth, Izuku found himself content. Despite his conversation with Katsuki, his life felt like it was where it should be. He was at his dream school, he was performing well, and he had friends. Friends that might be able to make real, good friends. He smiled at the thought. The next day came, and Katsuki didn't bother Izuku, even though he sat right in front of him. There was a new student, named Hitoshi Shinso, who transferred from Gen Ed in place of Minoru. He sat behind Izuku. It turned out that Aizawa had personally walked into the Gen Ed classes and interviewed each of the students. He seemed nice enough, if a bit reserved. After meeting him and some of his other classmates with Tenya and Ochako during homeroom, the rest of the day seemed almost boring to Izuku. Sure, English was taught by Present Mike, but it was still English. The hero that he had been happiest to see was Lunch Rush. But that was only because it was lunchtime, which he spent with Ochako and Tenya. The day flew by until they finally reached the most anticipated period of the day, basic hero training. Many of the students were debating who the teacher would be, the most popular possibility being All Might. Izuku also happened to have a hunch that the number one hero was teaching that class. I am, All Might's huge voice exclaimed, before he burst through the door flamboyantly, entering through the door like a normal person. That's not normal at all, Izuku thought, holding back a laugh. It's All Might, Ijiro Kirishima exclaimed. He really is a teacher. Isn't that his Silver Age costume? Tsuyua Sui observed. He looks so different from us, Mashiro Ojiro said. It gives me goosebumps. I'll be teaching basic hero training, All Might said, flexing in an exaggerated pose behind the podium. This course will mold you into heroes, those special training, and it's worth a lot of credits, too. Today's activity will be. He held up a small card labeled Battle. Battle training. Katsuki started chuckling, and Izuku really wished that he didn't sit right behind him. For that, you'll all need your hero costumes. All Might clicked a button on a small remote, and shelves extended from the wall, holding cases labeled with numbers going up to 20. They are labeled according to your seat numbers, except, unfortunately, for young Shinso. His costume hasn't been made, so he must wear a standard P uniform now. Get ready. Meet at ground beta, and come out in ranking order. Izuku was the first to step out in his hero costume. It was a green jumpsuit that his mother got him, with a matching green hood to cover his face and a transparent mouth guard. The hood had two bunny ear-like protrusions at the top, emulating All Might's hairstyle, and the mouth guard had white vertical stripes going across the bottom, emulating his smile. He also had white gloves, a red utility belt and shoes, and black knee and elbow guards to finish the ensemble. It's so obvious, All Might thought, noticing the imitation of his style. He barely kept from laughing aloud. The rest of the students followed in their own outfits. They were all very unique, and Izuku noticed that Katsuki's outfit hadn't changed much from when he doodled as a kid, with grenade-esque gauntlets. When he saw Ochako's skin-tight outfit, he almost had a heart attack. "Wow, Deku!" Ochako exclaimed, running up to him. "Your outfit looks so practical. And I love the bunny ears." Izuku was about to explain that they were supposed to look like All Might's hair, but he decided that that probably wouldn't seem very cool. "I wish I was more specific with my outfit request, though," she said, blushing and rubbing her neck. "This suit is so tight and curvy, and it's embarrassing." I think it all looks good," Izuku stuttered, blushing and glancing away. Oh, why you do?" Ochako's blush deepened, and she also averted her eyes from him. A couple of their classmates noticed the exchange, but nobody mentioned it. Finally, once Hitoshi entered ground beta in his gym uniform, All Might began the lesson. "Shall we begin, my wards? It's time for battle training," he exclaimed. "You're all looking good in those outfits." "Sensei," Ida's voice came from a suit of armor. "This appears to be the same complex as in the practical exam. Will we be performing cityscape maneuvers?" Ida's outfit looks cool, Izuku thought, looking at his friend's costume. "It reminds me of something. I can't put my finger on it, though." "No, we're going to do indoor anti-personal battling," All Might clarified. "While most villain encounters are seen outdoors, the statistics show that most villains appear indoors. Between confinement, house arrest, black market steals. In this hero-filled world of ours, the most clever villains lurk indoors. Now, you'll be split into hero teams and villain teams, and face off in 2-on-2 indoor battles." "We aren't getting any basic training first?" Tsuyu asked. "Practical experience will teach you the basics. The difference now will be that you aren't fighting mindless robots." Suddenly, the class exploded with questions. "How is victory determined? Can I just blast everyone away? Are you going to threaten us with expulsion like Aizawa-sensei? How will we divide into teams? Isn't my cape fabulous?" "Quiet down, one at a time," All Might pleaded, taking out a piece of paper. "My quirk isn't super hearing. All right, here's the deal." "A cheat sheet," Izuku muttered, quietly so that only Ochako could hear him. "The villain team will be hiding a fake nuclear bomb that the heroes must find and secure. There is a limited amount of time. The heroes must either secure the weapon or capture the villains in the time limit, and the villains must either capture the heroes or protect the weapon. Teams will be determined by drawing lots." "Lots?" Tenya exclaimed. "Is that really the best way to decide?" "It makes sense," Izuku said. "In most emergency situations, heroes can't pick and choose who to team up with. They have to make do with whoever is in the area." I see," Tenya said. "I'm sorry for getting ahead of myself. My apologies, Sensei." "Don't worry about it. Let's just get to it." He pulled 2 pieces of paper out of a box. "Team A is Ochako Uraraka and Izuku Midoriya. We're on the same team." "Deku!" Ochako exclaimed, surprised and happy. "How lucky is that?" "Yeah, Izuku said, smiling and nodding his head. "There's no way we'll lose." Team B is Mizo Shoji and Shoto Todoroki. Team C is Momo Yaoyorozu and Hitoshi Shinso. Team D is Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Team E is Mina Ashido and Yuga Aoyama. Team F is Koji Koda and Rikido Sato. Team G is Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro. Team H is Tsuyu Isui and Fumikage Tokoyami. Team I is Toru Hagakure and Mashiro Ajiro. Team J is Hantasiro and Ijiro Kirishima. Now, for the matchups, first up will be Team A as the heroes, and Team D as the villains. Izuku and Ochako both froze, and slowly turned to look at Katsuki. The explosion quirk user was grinning widely and laughing a little bit. Tenya was looking at him too, just as shocked as his friends at the seemingly horrible stroke of luck. Deku and round face, Katsuki said quietly, glancing sideways at them and sneering. I'll kill the shit out of you fucks.